Here's the truth. Dads want steaks. When you give dad perfectly aged, oh so tender steaks, you're not just giving him the best meal of his life, but the chance to grill them, share them, and share the moment with you. I reached into my freezer last night. I pulled out the air chilled chicken breast. Oh, bro. Frozen. Put them in warm water for about 10 minutes. Pulled them out. Put them on the grill. I ate 4 chicken breasts by myself. For a limited time, when you go to omahasteaks.com and enter the code BERT into the search bar, you'll be able to order the Dad's Favorite Grill package for just $99.99. Save over 60% on Dad's Favorite Grill pack, and you'll get 4 bacon-wrapped fillets, 4 premium air-chilled boneless chicken breasts, and they are tender. 4 boneless pork chops. I got them in my freezer. 4 gourmet jumbo franks. I'm telling you that the best damn jumbo franks you're ever going to have. 4 made-from-scratch caramel apple tartlets and Omaha steak seasoning, plus 8 free Omaha steak burgers for only $99.99. That is such a great deal. Remember, gifting is easy. Dad wants steaks. That's all you need to know. Omaha Steaks isn't just steaks. It's the best steaks of your life. Guaranteed. Visit omahasteaks.com and type Bert in the search bar to order the Dad's Favorite Grill pack today for just $99.99 plus 8 free burgers with your order.
Oh, I'm getting a message. You know, I have a old phone. Yeah. Evidently, the queen is sick. Slow Wi-Fi.
Yeah, of course you can smoke in here.
So you got this house, right?
Yeah.
And
oh, here, pull the mic up to you.
Oh, sorry. We start. I can't. Do you have a bigger stump?
Yeah, we have a better stump. Here, we'll put the stump closer to you.
Oh, thanks. Thank you, buddy. Yes. What fire did you get this one out of?
This was
what fire season? This was the old house.
Leanne. It said the other house. Leanne is when we bought it. Leanne loves cutting down fucking trees.
Oh yeah.
I'm not a person like that. I
can see you owning a chainsaw.
No. I like trees.
You do?
Yeah, I like privacy and trees. Hey, I just started seeing those. What's the tip on the cigarette tip?
How about a hello? How you doing?
Hey, Dave.
How about that?
Hey, Dave. It's so good to see you.
You know, I was the one on the 101. You know, I'm talking about fighting the traffic. It's great to be here, Bert. Thanks for having me. Now, the cigarette. I have these little tips on the end here, and people always ask me about them. They go, "What is that?" And it's like a little plastic tip that takes some of the tar out of it.
Oh,
just
real?
a little bit of the tar out. And if you smoke like 3 or 4 of them, you can see it slowly build up.
Really?
Yeah. And then I like to put them in my mouth, and it looks like teeth, like Halloween teeth.
How many packs do you smoke a day?
I like to smoke a pack for every hat I wear. 2 hats. Bert, you're a great. The one thing I love about you is you're a master of branding. So I'm trying to create a new character called Davey Two Hats.
I like it.
My name's Davey Two Hats.
I love that when we were doing the Fully Loaded, you'd go up with your mask on, and I was like, wait, what is going on with Dave with his mask? And then you go, I got a bit for it.
Yeah. You know me, I'm a prop man. In my heart, I'm all about props. But I have to say thanks again. That was a great tour, and I'm so excited we're doing it again.
Yeah, we're doing it again, Fully Loaded. We got Tiffany Haddish just jumped on.
Wow.
Yeah, Tiffany's going to do it, and Stavros. It's just all the people are just fun hangs.
It must, I mean, like just the few dates I did with you, it must have been exhausting. I mean, you were there every show. You closed every show. You did everything.
I don't mind it. I'm
getting a message. You know, I have a old phone. Yeah. Evidently, the queen is sick. Slow Wi-Fi. Okay, sorry.
I said to Georgia today, I said, I'm doing a podcast with Dave Attell, and she went, "Oh, Dad, you should ask him how he writes jokes." And I said, "Really?" And she goes, "Yeah, maybe you can like use some of that to start writing jokes."
Well, I just shot something up in San Francisco, and I definitely could have used a few more jokes.
Wait, what did you shoot up in San Francisco?
I was at Cobb's, which is a great club, so I wanted to like lay down some tape. It's been so long. And I got like bits we all do. Like I'm so sick of these bits. I wanted to get them on tape already. I don't even know if they're funny anymore. And then I got like some new stuff that I wanted to put out there. Plus there's like other little things I wanted to do. And I gotta say, like, of the 2 shows, one of them was awesome. The other one, sound problems, was a little stiff and all that kind of stuff. Plus I was like kind of all over the place on both of them. So I'm hoping to get a tight half hour. What do you think of this? Like the half hour as opposed to the hour? What do you think?
I think someone just did. I think Chris DiStefano did a shorter hour.
Yeah, I saw that. I loved it.
It was great. And I think the hours, like Segura always does like an hour 20.
Wow.
And I go, that just seems like a lot. I think, and I think, but based on your style of comedy, like I think Mark Norman, you, Sam Morrell, I think to do half hours is perfect because it doesn't burn all your material. Mm-hmm. So then you can still tour with stuff.
True.
But I think for like myself, because I do longer stories, a half an hour, I feel like I haven't even started. Right.
Yeah, Sam and Mark are like those guys are always pumping out new material. They really are great.
They're prolific.
I just think for me, it's like, first of all, I watched some hours, and I watched Marin's, which was awesome, and watched a couple other ones, and I was like, it's really like the actual time of an hour it's really, you have to commit to it. You got to commit, and like you watch some. An hour of comedy, like you want to take a break, you're in your house, you're like, I feel like I'm going to get a sandwich and then I'll come back to this, that kind of thing. But I think the half an hour is doable.
Like I think a half hour is so doable, and it makes you want more.
I hope so.
What jokes is your owl joke on that?
You know what? I got a couple of different owl jokes. So one of them is, it was also like I was working with Louis Katz and Ian Fidance, and those guys tour me all the time. They're both headliners, but they go out on the road with me, and they're bringing up old jokes that like I don't even know how to tell them anymore. And I'm like, but like how it is, like unless you like keep the reps going on the joke, it becomes like a whole like just babble.
I don't remember how jokes start sometimes.
Really?
Like someone will go like, "Hey, tell the joke about Island, the deodorant, and the refrigerator," and I go, "Yeah, I know the joke, but I don't know how to get into it."
Oh, right.
Yeah, because everything's by the time I tell it on the special, everything's so married to the thing before it that I don't remember. If I don't remember if you told me the end of the first joke, I can tell you the beginning of the second joke. But I don't know how the joke just starts.
Well, with this story too, it's like, there's an art to storytelling. I don't know that art, but there is definitely the locking them in. And I've seen you do it. And I've seen you do it in the middle of a windy baseball field, which is not easy. I don't think Mark Twain ever did that. I don't think Mark Twain ever played the venues you played on those tours. So, you're really good at that. So don't think like, hey, it's like, I need more this or that. It's like, what you're doing. And, let's face it, the crowd comes to see it,
Did you ever think stand-up comedy would be where it is today with?
That's a great question, man. In terms of how big it is,
that and how almost like how much you have to be like a producer to be a comedian these days. You have to be. I mean, when I started, it was just. I didn't even know dudes did the road.
Really?
I honestly, I thought you moved to New York. You did stand up out of New York, and then you just became great, and then you could do some corporates or you do a sitcom. But I didn't know there was like a whole bunch of funny bones.
Yeah,
I didn't know about that. And now I look at it and I go, it's gotten so different. It's unrecognizable almost.
I totally agree. That's really, we could talk about that for not hours, but at least for this hour.
Yeah.
Like comedy is so different from when I started. It's not like just another old man talking, but I never knew it would be so, first of all, it's very relevant. And like, I haven't been relevant in like 20 years, but I feel like everybody, has a point, and like there's a lot of different, ways that comedy kind of intersects now with the times we live in, which I guess is good. For me, I'm always just about the joke, the funny and all that.
Yeah.
But for, I guess the audiences now kind of expect that there's going to be a point to it or like a meaning. And like, to me, that is the tiresome element of it, of where like people are always reading too hard into jokes. But in terms of like the business of comedy, like when I started, all I wanted to do was get on the road. I thought that's what being a comic was, being like a road national headliner. Like that was the end game of it. Like the people I kind of looked up to, like Richard Jeni or, some of these other like just like power headliners were out on the road, like, playing, exotic places like Atlanta. I'm from Long Island. So, it's like, I'm going to be in Atlanta, I'm going to be in Kansas City, Missouri. I was like, whoa, dude, I want to get. So that was what I was hoping to do. But the sitcom thing was there also because Seinfeld was big. And, all the comics thought that like it's only a matter of time till I get my sitcom. And you realize how special that situation was. The combination of Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld together, and that doesn't happen all the time, So a lot of these guys like moved out to LA and they kind of just basically, spin their wheels, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But for me, it was always about the road. It was like trying to be like, like Kinnison or somebody like, like just out there, like power act kind of thing. And as a club comic, there are always clubs, but there never were as many clubs as there are now. And then the jump to theaters, like I never saw that. Like I don't even remember going to a theater show when I was a kid other than Rodney Dangerfield, you know what I'm saying? Like seeing him like in a Westbury Music Theater on Long Island, Other than that, it was really just like you'd see a guy at a club or something, or on TV like HBO or the Ha Network, before Comedy Central. But the actual thing that you do and do really well is that, you got it right away with content, which is that like, the audience always wants more. And the stuff that you provide them is interesting and funny and it gives them a peek into your world, So that to me is like when you line up everything together. But in terms of like seeing comedy, how like, these megatours and of course Chappelle, like, who is I think comic of our generation, this guy breaking all attendance records, at all the Hollywood Bowl, like Madison Square Garden, like just endless amounts of shows like that. And like, to me, I'm like, I never thought that I would live to see this kind of stuff.
I mean, it's just crazy to think, how many comics are doing theaters.
Exactly.
When you and Lewis and
you guys
Mitch
saved the theater world. That's what I think. Because before that, it was like, oh, wow, look who's here, Spyro Gyra, or like some other kind of like, oh, the Chinese gymnasts are in town. They're coming to Terrytown, New York, that kind of thing.
That is crazy to think. Not even that's an actually real thing.
That's right.
Comedy, because comedy is super cheap to produce.
Exactly.
All you need is a mic and a stool.
Yes.
And that's it. And there's so many comics doing theaters that I remember when I got the offer to do theaters. I remember talking to you about when we were talking about theaters.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, I just would rather stay in clubs. I was like, that's it. When I first got the offer, I was like, it doesn't make sense. You might lose money. You got a promoter now involved. It was so much easier when you just got your door deal. There was no fear of not making that money back. You just had a door deal. You get 80% of the door, 60% of the door. And now now arenas. I mean, that's.
Yeah, it's an arena. It's arenas. It's also like really cool. I still think to this day that like even during the pandemic, people tried it, which is the virtual comedy.
Yeah.
That didn't work.
No.
I don't think that's the future of it. I think it's the live show.
It's got to be live.
Now and always,
Yeah.
So, and do you feel comfortable like in an arena? Because that is like a whole different animal.
Well, I just took Fitzsimmons with me.
Oh, he's great. He's a good friend of mine.
We were doing Something's Burning and someone fell out and we needed someone to do the arena. We do Tampa, Savannah, and Orlando.
Oh, cool.
And so, they were, Orlando and Tampa are like two of the bigger ones I've ever done.
Yeah.
And I told Greg, I said, you should, I was like, are you free next weekend? He was like, yeah. I go, let's go. And it's so big in scope of all of it because you realize you're like a pro athlete. Like you enter in a different way. They have catering set up for you. You have massage therapists if you want them. You have the access to the gym. But I spent extra on this tour, and I think we'll have it for Fully Loaded, to have a full production crew there. So I have a crew of like 12. And then a production manager who make a stage, put up huge. I travel with my own. I travel with 3 semis and then 2 tour buses, and you really feel the difference in intimacy because we have a light package that creates boundaries, so it puts a roof on it.
I understand, yeah.
And then we have 2 huge screens that are full size body screens in vertical, and so Greg got off and he was like, oh, I go, it feels intimate. And it is a big arena, but there is an intimacy to it, especially when you add production and you get the sound dialed in. So it really, But I love them. I fucking love them.
Cool. Well, you look comfortable doing them. You know, it seems like that's your house. So it's great that you do. Like for us, for the club guy getting into the arena, like I've done ones like I think we've all done the circle in the round, you know, all those different like variations on the arena theater, you know, big venue thing. And I guess my funny story is that you know, doing circle in the round is great if you sell out. Otherwise, like you telling a joke and then you do the punchline to no one, you know, so you got to time it where there's like all these empty seats or there's like one super fan or just weird dude sitting there where it's like, you know, and that's what my mother said. And he's like having a conversation with this one weirdo basically. But I would say that you know, like, you know me and you kind of know what my weird shit is that I like it when it's weird. I like it when it's like, that's why I like when we did the baseball field, I was like, oh, this is I love this. This is like weird. It's kind of like, you know, you see in all these kind of it's a little too chilly. Plus, I don't think they've been out in a while. Kind of look to their like little pasty. It's Rochester, right? Wasn't that
it was Rochester.
Yeah. So you're like, this is kind of my world. I like it like this.
It was Father's Day. I think Georgia was with us and Georgia, Georgia, and Big J watching you. And,
well, Jay's another, like, you know, I think he's a one of a kind. You know, he's that good. Yeah.
And Georgia, you were doing crowd work, but using the backdrop of the city. I don't know if you remember it, but there was a community college that was behind us. Right. And you were like, oh, looks like someone went to, and Georgia turns around and Jay goes, wait, what? And Georgia goes, Dad, is he using the city? And I said, yeah. And Jay goes, and you go, oh, if you didn't like that one, pray to the cross, the glowing cross up on the mountain to the left. But it was like, you're right. That is fun to watch you in a different environment. Yeah. It's almost like it distracts you from your jokes and it allows you to play in the thing. It was really fun. It
keeps it interesting for me because that's really the whole thing of like doing it. Like now I've been doing it for like over 30 years is that like, it's got to be interesting. That's why I keep changing up these jokes, like different punchlines and setups and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, like I had somebody, I go like, you know, I'm putting some tape down. Can you listen to my old stuff? Because I can't. And it's like I have the same, like, you know, it's like vibrators, what porn, strip club. You know, it's always like the same topics, you know. And I'm like, damn, I got to get out there and, you know, like learn how to sail or something. You know, I need something to mix this up. But I would say at the end of the day, when you do the venue and how well you treat the acts that you bring with you, that's like the gold standard. And I'm not just saying it because like I'm in your semi-finished house here and I'm talking to you. I'm saying like, I told everybody, I go like, you know, I've been on a bunch of tours, you know, I've done like, you know, tours on my own and all that different stuff. But what you go above and beyond to make everyone feel as though they are the headliner and also like to make it fun, you know? And I know there was so many different types of comics on it, which I thought was really a great way to like, you know, get a bigger audience, you know, give a bit of whatever. And there were people that I've never seen before. So it was great to get a chance to watch them. But at the end of the day, it was really just about like, you know, having fun with Bert. And I figured that's when I told you, I go like, you should have like your own summer Olympics or something, you know, like you should do something where you go like from town to town and have challenges, you know.
I would enjoy that so much.
I know you would.
I would love that.
So
it's for me, when we started, it's really Leanne. Leanne was like, we started to do Fully Loaded, and she said, oh, whatever money that we're supposed to get from the door deal, like whatever money we pull in from tickets, she goes, put that back into the festival. And she was like, just make it, like, think, how would you like it? Like, if you were on the tour, would you like? And I was like, oh, I know what I'd like. And I started saying it. Mm-hmm. And I think Leanne looked at it and she was like, the one thing she loved is the gift baskets.
Right.
Because she knows that just how much a little acknowledgement means when you're a comic.
Oh, for sure.
It's like the littlest thing means so much. And so she said, well, then don't worry. We don't need to make money on this festival. We can just invest whatever money we're supposed to make, put it back in the festival and make it fun for the comics. And she was like, and she goes, and I think there's goodwill in, you know, when I started, and this is something that's changed in comedy a lot, like everyone wanted to be the funniest comic. And I think it's changed. Now everyone just loves great comics. You know, like everyone.
You mean the comics themselves?
The comics. Like I think everyone wanted to be the star. And I think it's changed a little bit in that and I think it's because of podcasting, is that when you have funny people on your podcast, it helps you.
Right.
So I think, like, what was it? The tide raises all boats.
True.
And that was my favorite part. I mean, my favorite part of that whole festival was sitting with Georgia, getting to watch you and Big J and fucking Shane Gillis. And I mean, to watch Georgia laugh at Shane Gillis, she's not supposed to like him.
Right.
She is not supposed to like a semi-QAnon.
True. Yeah. Well, he's also a great comic, and he also
He's brilliant.
He's when you think of it, like I'm trying to think of the movie that would be where a guy was like, many twists and turns in comedies, the highs and lows. He's kind of the Lucas, you know what I'm saying? Like where he like, kind of had like a rough start, but now he found his audience and they can't get enough of the guy. And, I've seen him work in the city, and I've tried to like I do with all the comics, engage with them, like either on stage and like when I mix it up with Jeff Ross, we do the bumping mics thing. It's not like we just do that for the tour. We started doing that in clubs, and I do it with other comics as well. Like we always like want to include everybody and like, get them up there for like, a couple of minutes or whatever, and just, rail and riff and all that kind of stuff. That's the fun of, that keeps my brain working, that kind of stuff. But with Shane, he's like, he's so like, I guess you could say like he's locked in, and I'm trying to like, kind of like, get out of it, come on, have a moment, have some fun. But I would say that he's just getting started. There's a lot of guys now that like, I think because of the world we live in, where even if the main platforms don't get it, that the audience will bring them to a point where like they'll be undeniable,
Yeah.
So that's like a whole other conversation. But in terms of what you do and these venues and these tours and things like that, it's like, remember years ago, like, you go to Just for Laughs, it's like, hey, I'm going to be there for 10 days. I don't even know how to pack for 10 days. And like, it's like jugglers and drinking and all that kind of stuff. And they speak a weird language. What's that? And that became like, the like festival. Now I'm like, I've been to Skankfest. That was great. That was great. You couldn't ask for better crowds. It was like these people waiting in the sun. And if you look at them, you're like, what are they waiting for? It's like, it looks like a methadone line, but they're super fans, super polite. Even the guy who ran the venue, and that's Jay and Christine. They, that's their thing with Luis Gomez and the Legion of Skank people. They know comedy, they respect it, and almost they respect it a little too much. They'll stand for show after show after show. I've never seen anything like that in the heat, waiting online. It was really kind of like, what's up with this?
And they're legit comedy fans.
They are like
That's
the super
crazy.
fan.
When do you think comedy fans showed up? Because like when I moved to New York, I moved to New York in 1997, I think, 1998. I don't know. You'd get the odd guy that went to NYU that loved comedy, but you didn't have like comedy fans the way you have comedy fans now.
I totally agree with that. Like, I'm trying to think of it because you just kind of activated something by saying that. It's like every show was like a kind of good show on a Friday where like a lot of couples, there's a bunch of guys drinking, there's some guys who were kicked out of a strip club, now they're there.
One guy's
so that was everything.
Tomorrow.
And then there was that one comedy fan, the guy who like, I've listened to every album that, Robert Klein did, and he would try and engage with you about like, comedy theory and things like that. But other than that, it was definitely more of a party. Like, it was like something you did, like, next weekend you're going to do something else. But like we went to a comedy show. It's supposedly hot. Maybe we'll see whatever the one person they knew from television, like whoever
if
hosted
Kevin James
SNL
came in, or if Raymond Romano stepped in, it was they'd be like, oh, I know that guy.
For sure, especially out West Coast because there's so many big names this way, you know. But like I would say, I don't know. I think it was definitely after 9/11. I don't know. I think it was like further into the 2000s. It was definitely not in the 90s. It wasn't like that.
I think
it was like. It was like one of those things where maybe the platforms, like Twitter and stuff like that also help build that, and like you said, the podcasting.
It was crazy because it's the funnest thing to like. I remember people going to my show back in the right when I first started selling tickets, and it felt like comedy was becoming popular because of the podcast, maybe. And someone's like, "You're my favorite comic," and I was like, who else do you like? And they're like, well, you're the only one I've seen. And I went, oh, wow.
Yeah,
well, you don't realize what's out there. There's so much better. I was like, don't go see Bill Burr.
Well, isn't it funny how like I always ask the same thing because when I'm on the merch line and like, I go, who else have you seen? And they know a bunch. And then there's also like, you know, the not so rare, but the one that always makes me excited, the Doug Stanhope fan, which is like, you know, I saw Doug and this kind of stuff. So I immediately bring them up another notch of like comedy fan. And there's a couple of people out there that are really, you know, to be honest, like when I know they're coming to every show in a weekend, like they'll go, oh, I'll be back tomorrow. Yeah. You're like, okay, I got to mix it up again. What do I got to do? I got to come up with some other bits.
This happened to me this weekend. The guy goes, I wrote one joke about Winnipeg. One fucking joke. I apologize to anyone in Winnipeg. And I'm sure someone's written this. I'm sure this joke's been done.
What, Winnipeg?
No.
That joke, gold mine?
No. I said Winnipeg is a little bit of a depressing place. I saw a snowman with a hairdryer to his head. And this, I did it. I've just been to Winnipeg. I couldn't tell it Winnipeg. I'm now in Calgary. I do it on the first show. It gets a laugh. And then I do it on the second show. And the guy goes, you already did that joke.
Oh, shit.
And I went, now I'm like, wait, have I told that twice this show? And he was like, no, the other show, do more new stuff. And I was like, I wanted to go, buddy, that's not how it works. I don't do the show based on what you've seen.
Yeah.
So I go, they weren't at the first show.
Yeah, really?
Yeah. And then I'm in my head going like, oh, God, I got to put some new stuff up here. And so I started adding stuff but I'm hyper aware of like that one guy who's a diehard who comes to both shows.
It gets in your head.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really affects it. It does. But I think that's a good joke. I like that. It was whatchamacallit, like the other thing is when you see the front row and they're not laughing at all and you're like, well, what's with these people? They paid extra money to be that close, didn't they?
Yeah.
Well, you know, how am I not whatever? And then you engage with them and it becomes this whole thing of like, you know, like I have to start like, you know, kind of like riffing with them and everything like that. And they kind of put their head down and everything. And I'm like, why did that happen? And they're the ones after the show, like, I've seen you like in the name like 10 cities and like I've traveled to see you and this kind of stuff. And you're like, wow. So they just, it's almost like they want it. It's like I hate to say it, but like a call to prayer. Like they just sit there and they're like, yes. And now he's going to say something about cantaloupe. You know, I don't know. So, but yeah, hey, the one thing that I do like about you is that you engage with the crowd. You know, a lot of these guys, it's like, you know, this is a performance piece and like, you know, you just happen to be here. And there's a lot of specials like that too now, which is like, oh, there's an audience here. Okay. You know, but it's really about their, you know, truth or whatever they're talking about.
Yeah. I whatever need that I need, I'm doing it for whatever need I have to fill.
Right.
So like, I feel like sometimes I said to Fitzsimmons and Savannah, it sounds so silly. I said, I'm jealous of them because I would love to be with my wife and be excited for my thing and be going to see my thing. Like how much fun.
You mean like you see it from their point of view.
I see it from their point of view and I go, I love going to a baseball stadium. I love getting hot dogs. I love going to football games. I love all of that. And I feel like, you know, when you start off as a football player, I use football as an example, you're a fan of football. You love going to football games. And then one day you're no longer at the football games. You are the football game. And I think I loved comedy so much. I loved going back in the back of the cellar and being anonymous and just sitting at that back table watching my favorite comics go up. I mean, like I remember just so much of like being a fan of comedy.
Yeah.
That I go, I would love to be able to have my night with my wife. By like 5 tickets ago, I'm about to introduce you to my favorite comic. And I think that's what I get to do with Fully Loaded is feel like I sit in the back and I just watch everyone do stand-up. Nikki Glaser took her shirt off and did it topless last year. And
really?
She goes, fuck it. She ripped her top off. And she was like, and Georgia and the girls are losing. And it's fun to have the girls. How cool is that?
That's great.
Nikki was fucking awesome.
Yeah, she's another person who I feel like the venue, like the theater, and like the whatchamacallit, like it just takes it to the next level with Nikki.
I think so too.
Yeah.
You know who's coming out this year with us?
Who?
Lewis Black.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, we got.
See, I toured with Lewis and Mitch Hedberg years and years ago, and like the one person on that tour who really knew how to work a theater was Lewis Black. Yeah. And since that tour, he's been out on the road. You know, he is like when I look to like who tours, it's like Lewis is always out there. You know. Yeah. And he was the one guy who like knew how to work a theater because it's so different than a club. And like, you know, when you're a joke guy, especially like, you're throwing jokes out there and you're hoping to like kind of hear the same wave coming back at you.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes you're just up there like, basically trying to like lock them in and like move forward and all that kind of stuff. For me, that's why the club is so good, because it's immediate,
Yeah.
And I guess that spoils you. But for you, I was going to say, when I think of the crowds that come down, especially the Comedy Cellar, like, I don't know, how long did you live in New York?
A year.
Okay. Well, you probably got out when the going was good, because right now it's a filthy mess over there. But the Cellar is huge.
Yeah.
And like, there's people that come from all over, and there's people who actually come in with their rolling bags right from the airport.
For real.
And they're like sitting there and they're like, they heard about it, or they're meeting friends there, and this is like the big event of their trip. And then there's some locals, but you see less and less locals now. But the New York comedy scene is strong, and it's good.
Yeah.
It's good for guys like me who like, I'm, already a seasoned comic, and the new people, plenty of open mics, seems to be a lot of stage time there for people. In terms of like crowd, I would say that the Cellar has become more and more, I don't want to use the word woke, but it definitely is sensitive.
Oh, for real?
Where you're like, these things should be kicking it in New York. And I'm like, I did this joke in Iowa and it was like, huge, or I did it in Richmond, Virginia or something like that. And then in New York, you could see just the tinge of like, we know this is inappropriate, which kind of sucks for me since I play there pretty much every night. I'm not on the road. So I'm like, what am I doing here? I get that a lot. I like to go on last. So I'm not like, can I say a cock block on anybody else? I'm not getting in anyone's way. So if I totally make it a mess, it's like if there's a skid mark on the bed, it's mine. That's what I like to say. It's like, well, how did this happen? So I'm the guy who ruins it. That's why I like to go on at the end. It also is really getting harder and harder to follow the new comics. I don't know if you're having this when you do like showcases. Yeah. So it's like, it helps me step up the game.
Well, I was wondering because this is going to sound silly, I'm sure. It's good that we have all the construction going on now.
I think it adds a sense of,
I think it does.
urgency.
I still get nervous to bomb in front of people.
Because it's not your crowd. That's what it is.
Yeah. And so I go.
Well, I'll show you how to do it, Bert. When do you want me to meet you in New York?
But it's like, what percentage of new stuff are you trying a night?
I would say that, although the last month has been trying to get my stuff together. And I really, to be honest, like I'm super critical, and I really am like, I don't really like anything I do, but I was like, I don't think I did some of these jokes right. And I really feel like they're like my little like children and everything like that. So I'm like, I'm at least hoping the jokes look good. The actual special together, like, who knows, it might be all over the place, but the actual like putting them all together, I hope that looks okay for the audience, and also just for all the people that are going to be like, it's going to be a lot of editing. I mean, even though it's 2 shows, it always turns into editing and stuff like that. But what I was going to say for you, that like, the wave of them being so excited to see you is one thing. And I've seen Chris Rock work his stuff out there, and this guy really does the homework. I mean, like, Chris really goes out when he's about to like go on tour, or like he just did that streaming thing, which is probably something that a guy like you should do.
I'm not as good as Chris. I couldn't do just one show. Like,
okay,
I actually am the exact opposite of Chris. Is that if you, I can always have a good show, but I think I notice fuck ups in my show that I wouldn't want.
Yes,
I do 4 shows. Like I
that's
tape
the
4
best,
shows. Yeah, because I want to make sure I have it.
See, I wish I had another 2. That would have been really good for me, but could only afford 2 instead of 4. But
well, tell
4 is the sweet spot.
Tell me when you're ready for next one, and I'll produce it and I'll pay for it. Because I'm not even fucking around. We're doing that with Shane Torres. Leanne loves Shane Torres. I love Shane Torres.
Shane's great. I just saw him last night.
Yeah, he wanted to do a special, and Leanne was like, I'm not, just the way the finances were working out, it didn't seem like Shane was going to own it. And Leanne's like, I ain't letting that happen. She was like, we'll pay for it. And I was like, what? She goes, I'll pay for it. We'll pay for it and let him own it. Wow. And I was like, okay. And so we're making his next week in Brooklyn.
This reminds me of Apple Records. A lot of good intentions.
Yeah.
Get a good accountant.
Father's Day is around the corner, and one thing is for sure: Dad's got enough ties, tools, baggy tees this year. Give Dad, the father figure, the mentor, the loved one in your life, the gift of looking good and feeling good with True Classic. Dads come in all shapes and sizes, but if there's one thing these guys are good at, It's a great fitting t-shirt for everybody. True Classic shirts are ultra soft, fit in the arms and shoulders, just enough room where you need it for the perfect fit and feel every time. Bundle and save on your packs of favorite styles from button-downs to Henleys to polos. I wore one yesterday. I put on a shirt and then someone's like, is that blood on your shirt? And I was like, crap. Grabbed a really nice black. It was a different cotton than I've normally worn with they've got different cottons, and this one was nice and slick. I look skinny, man, and I whenever I set a t-shirt, I never feel like I look skinny. True Classics is hooking up our listeners with an exclusive deal to get you ahead on gifting. For a limited time only, get 25% off with the code BERT at trueclassic.com. That's 25% off with the code BERT, plus free shipping included on purchases over $100. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. It is so easy to get caught up in what everyone else needs from you and never take a moment to think about what you need from yourself. Silence. Silence is something I need for myself. I found that out in therapy. I was talking to my therapist about what do I need? We did a list of what do I need? Gratitude. It's therapy can really get you out of a hole, especially if you're, it doesn't even need to be that deep of a hole. I texted my therapist today and I was like, yo, can we do Saturday? I do entirely online therapy and I love online therapy. I swear by it because I don't have to leave my house. I don't have to get in the car. Listen, if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge, which is so valuable. It took me 4 therapists until I found the one I work with now, and I've been working with him since I got fired from Travel Channel. Before I got fired from Travel Channel. Find more balance with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/Bert today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Bert. When you do the 30 minutes, do you have a way that, are you thinking of what joke next?
Well, you know, with me, it's mostly the wardrobe tells the story. No, I really don't know. It's like Did
you know what jokes you wanted to put in this set?
Well, I had the jokes that I wanted to, like, okay, I'm kind of done telling them. And then, you know, I don't know if you have the same problem where it's like, you know, you tell a joke and it's like, hey, that's funny. And then something happens in the news and now it's like hate speech, you know, it's a manifesto. It's like, you know, whatever, like, why would you even think that when this happened? So, you know, it's like, all my train derailment stuff gone, you know, that kind of thing. Like, it's like, wow, whoa, man, you know, it's like, there goes 10 minutes. So I would say, since most of your stuff is personal and family, you know, I think that the crowd loves a peek on the inside of the business. Yeah. To me personally, I'm not that good about, like, you know, hey, this is what's happening when I'm not on stage, you know, that kind of stuff. But for you, you've already done that, you know, with the family and everything like that. So keep that coming. The other thing would be, like, coming up with material. Talk to them and go, like, you know, it's not easy. It's not easy about coming up with material. A lot of you are like, hey, well, just go out and, you know, like, whatever, buy a car, tell us about it. And it's like a lot more difficult than that. Yeah. So I think that they also would respect that. They're like, you know, hey, you know what, I'm always trying to bring new stuff to you guys.
Yeah.
But for the special, and I know the special, we still all consider it special, even though it seems like some people put them out every 6 months or something like that. It still is, like, for us, like doing HBO was a big deal for me. And, like, you know, that's what I thought was the end game of comedy, which is like, you're an HBO comic, you know, you're like with Carlin and all that kind of stuff. It's like, I'm nowhere near any of that stuff. After the one HBO thing I did, I was like, wow, oh man, was that tough. It was not to my crowd. It was like one of those things of, like, you know, they just kind of threw you up there and, like, double teamed you. You know, it was like me and Norton, who was a great comic too, Jim Norton. And I was like, man, that didn't feel good to me. You know, it's like, I thought these were supposed to be like a victory lap. That was almost like an audition for an hour, you know? Yeah. So I would say for you, why don't you just start writing down, like, you know, like the things you want to talk about, and then try and ease them into what you're doing already. And then when you do these, like, 20-minute sets, then you'll be able to see more clearly. Because listening to a 20-minute set is way better than listening to, like, an hour, like when I'm on the road. Oh, yeah. And I listen to the hours and I'm like, oh my God, how much more time, many times do I have to hear that one? And, like, you know, this is like, just like distraction, you know? Yeah. But don't be so hard on yourself. You'll definitely have I mean, you control all parts of it. So if it's not where you want it, you'll edit it. And if it's whatever, then you should, you know, just basically give yourself a break and like try and get it the way you want it before you even get there, you know?
I feel like I wish I was better at writing shorter jokes, because I feel I would I think they're so valuable. I think so many people these days I feel like everyone wants to be a long form storyteller. And I think Segura and I have talked about this. There's nothing better than having something getting in and out, like just like a stabbing, like a quick.
That's what I
shiv.
do. Paper cuts, I call it. You know,
paper cuts.
It's like death by 1,000 paper cuts, but it really is exhausting, and it's also they all don't fit together. And I think that the crowd, like, you know, the crowd loves. Oh, well, here's something, you know, like a third person kind of story where somebody came up to me and they were like thinking of doing comedy, and like, you know, I'm also a you know, public speaker or something like that. And I was like being supportive, like you're supposed to be for new comics. And at some point in the conversation, they go like jokes per minute or over. And I said like, well, I've never heard a crowd go like, you know what? Leaving go like too many jokes. I was laughing too much. And, you know, like we're both right, because in today's world of comedy, like you can watch a special and laugh 5 times. Like the rest of it is really about like stories and like things they want to say. Whereas I think we kind of grew up with the idea of like, you know, where are the laughs, you know, like, and you almost feel like, you know, a caveman saying that now, like, but where are the laughs, you know?
And when I did Secret Time, I literally was thinking to myself, because I was just I would watch other specials, and I feel like there's not enough people critical of themselves these days. I feel like everything's been, when I started, that everyone was very critical of how they did. Yeah. And then you'd watch a guy come off stage and go, just murdered. And all of us would be like he didn't see the same fight I saw.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. And I also think that like, as a guy who actively hates himself, that I don't know how these people go on stage and basically leave with such confidence after like you know, like whatever they're doing, and I'm like, well, you know, there's some great ideas there, or like some of that stuff needs like a tune up, you know, it needs to be tweaked, and they're like, no, I got it, like that's what it is, you know, and a lot of it is like, you know, I guess magical thinking, you know. I
guess I think back in the day, you had to have jokes to get a fan base, and now you can get a fan base before you have jokes. And so I think people go out and they'll sell the tickets, and because they sold the tickets, they're like, I'm selling tickets. That's what matters. I think I started at a time when you would be funny, but you could not sell a ticket.
Well, I'll take it even a step further back, which is like back when the club owners controlled and ruled comedy, where, you know, it was basically, you know, people talk about like, you know, who, you know, the gatekeepers. It's like, you know, some guy running like, you know, an Italian restaurant with a catering hall in the back, and he would turn it into a comedy club on the weekend, and he'd be like, he ain't funny. Yeah. You know, I don't like that type of humor. My crowd doesn't, whatever. That would be considered hate speech now, of like, what, you didn't get the fact that this person is speaking for a marginalized group and blah, blah, blah. They'd be like, whoa. There'd be a picket. There'd be people picketing the club. But back then it was like, you know, I don't get it. And if my kitchen guy doesn't laugh at it, it ain't funny. Yeah. There'll be all these, like, you know, these guys who had like what they considered funny. You know, they wanted to see a version of whoever, you know, like, you know, it's like, where are the props? I don't see a puppet. What's going on out there? You know, these people, they're paying good money. They want to laugh, you know? Yeah. And that was in your face. It wasn't like through a tweet. It was it was you and him as guys were washing dishes, going back and forth. You know what? Hey, I'm sorry, it's not working out. You're just not that good. How many bad Vegas shows have you ever done where it's like the crowd's just sitting there, they're broke losers, and the guy's like, you know, you couldn't get him going, I guess you don't got it. You know what I'm saying? It was like one of those, like, okay.
I used to do shows on the old Vegas Strip.
Yeah.
You want to talk about fucking down on their luck? They had a casino in not Cedar Rapids, in Iowa, Davenport, Iowa, called Penguins. Do you remember Penguins?
Yes, I do.
And there was a casino in there, and I remember seeing people coming out of the casino. It was next door. Mm-hmm. People seeing, and I remember looking at that casino going, what in the world makes any of these people think they're going to find luck tonight? Like they've never been lucky once in their lives.
Yes.
And like, you're in a wheelchair, you have diabetes, you got a fucking steel lung next to you, and you think tonight's going to be the night to. But I agree. I remember an owner. I won't say his name, but he was like, "Yeah, I don't have." They were talking about Patrice, and he's like, "I'm not bringing a black guy." He didn't use the word black guy.
Really?
Like, yeah. Oh, yeah. And he was like, "No, because I don't want that. I don't want that crowd here."
Right.
And I remember another comic saying you're thinking he's Steve Harvey. He's not Steve Harvey. He's just a great comic.
Right.
And he appeals to everyone. Everyone shows up. And he was like, "Can you believe they tried to tell me to bring Patrice in?" And I was like, "Yeah, he's fucking hilarious."
Well, yeah, that was another thing where like you would go up against the bias of the club owner. But I always listen to the staff and I also listen to the club owners because they, especially during the pandemic, they really took a beating. I mean, it was like when you think about like what we do, it's like, hey, it was terrible. I got bills. My mom has dementia. I have to pay round clock care. And I was getting nervous. But I was like, I talked to these club guys, the guys who own the club, and they're like, I'm trying to take care of my staff, like I'll name a name, Allison in DC at DC Improv, which is probably my best market and my best
favorite.
room.
It's one
There's
of
a
the best
couple around
clubs
the
in
country
world.
where it's just like, those are like still my hubs, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like, she's great and she's an angel and, her like going above and beyond for her staff, during that year and a half, 2 years, whatever it was, you feel for them and you go like, here I am. I got like my responsibility, but to have responsibility for so many, and to take it back to the fun, bad old days of comedy, it would be like, you would follow a local, let's call him like, basically a guy, a hack, and he would hit all the numbers and you're trying to be like, I started on Long Island and New York. So there was definitely a, disconnect between the two, whereas like what was funny on Long Island was not particularly funny in New York.
Really?
Yeah. It was like, like, first of all, like people knowing that you lived in New York was like, whoa, what's that about? Oh, hold on a second. I'm coming from Suffolk County here. And like you were following magicians, you were following ventriloquists. It was basically all the dark arts of comedy. You were following like a guy would raise a cat from the dead, like all these different things, get standing ovations, people would do lip syncing, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then you would be up there with your New York jokes, the subway is, I don't go on the subway, I drive it, that kind of thing. So I don't know, man. I feel like the hardening of comedy, I'm so glad I went through all that, the hardening of it. But now, like when you go into these new rooms, it's like the different feel to it, which is like they're so quiet, they're so basically walled off. I'm talking about these younger crowds where they really have like, it's almost like an emotional distance where, you have teenage children, right? So I assume that's like when you're like trying to have a teachable moment with them where they're just kind of like nodding, but they're not listening.
No.
So that's what I feel like I'm
always
getting.
right.
Yeah.
They're always right.
For sure.
That was what was fun. And, last night, randomly, Isla asked if she could come out and work for Fully Loaded because Georgia did last year with her friends.
For sure.
And Isla's like, can I come with a friend and we'll work? And I was like, yeah, of course. Because the fun thing is, and Shane was the one that the first person they saw where they felt like they weren't supposed to laugh, like, and they felt guilty for laughing. And it was his joke about I think it was about the I'm not gonna, I think he's already told it somewhere about him loving history and going to an old antebellum mansion,
right,
and interacting with a black dude. And Georgia went like this, and I went, well, don't hold your mouth. It's okay to laugh. And she goes, well, no, Dad, that's horrible. And I went, yeah, but do you see the thing that happened when you started laughing? You're laughing because it caught you off guard, and that's an involuntary reaction. So don't try to squash it. Let it happen.
It really, I don't have kids, but I can see how that really would get not only annoying, but almost like this is your business. Funny is my business. And if my own kids don't like get it or don't want to, or feel like there's something impeding them from laughing, I can see how that would be really, really hurtful. You know what I'm saying? Like it really must emotionally touch you, And
I said, listen, Shane won't be for everyone. I'm not saying that you and your girlfriends are going to be big Shane Gillis fans, but like you'll find your person that you like, but I go, but if don't, just because society tells you that what Shane's talking about is wrong, don't stop from that laughter. If you're starting to laugh, let it happen,
right?
And then you went on and you said, "I like a hairy bush."
Mhm.
Did that joke? I won't.
I
burn
wanted
it.
to do dirty. Yeah.
And George and her friends fucking howled laughing.
Sure.
And watching you, and then it was really cool because I think she got it. She watched Big J, and Big J had made a joke about Demi Lovato, and fucking they laughed, and by the end I was like, fucking finally, like but I think all those kids are being inundated with this is how like acceptance and this is how we need to treat each other, and this is like pronoun, like they all have their pronouns everywhere. And if you say, like, we had a friend of ours, Sandy, was like, who's Chinese and Vietnamese, and she's like, I don't get pronouns. And then their kids light her up and they're like, mom, you can't say that. She's like, I just don't get them.
They really are doing that. That's not like just something that, like, you know, you hear about, like you actually have to live that life, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
And imagine, like, my friend Sandy grew up in Boston in the 70s. She was Chinese, but from Vietnam, a Chinese immigrant from Vietnam in Boston.
Yeah.
Imagine her life was brutal, and to be explained to by children and Sandy's a good person. She'll like listen and have a conversation with her kids. She's fucking way better than me. I wrote a joke about fucking Elliot Page, and Georgia just went, no. And I was like, you don't fucking tell me no, George. I was like, this fucking pays for all you, like, if I want to tell that joke, I'll tell that fucking joke.
Well, you know, I like that you're like having these moments with them about, like, you know, what is funny, whatever. But it's also generational. It's like music in a way. If like what they grew up with is what they're gonna like think is, and then when it changes, they're gonna be like, what happened to that and all that kind of stuff.
It's
but
like
in terms
when I
of
first
this,
heard that Perry Farrell sucked the dude's dick, I remember being like, so this is my generation. I guess I gotta be cool with that.
yeah, exactly. I'm like, you know, the comedy. Like I was thinking of like old Red Fox stuff.
Yeah,
and how, like, you know, like this is like just for me now, I guess, you know, like all those different things. And people always bring up Carlin. But it's like, you know, to be honest, like the Vegas Carlin, the one that he said, I'm done with this. Because I was like, this guy was like a joke per minute machine.
Yeah.
He had bits. He was able to do all that kind of stuff. So it's like, it's not like he like said, you know, I'm never, like a lot of these, I think comics that start out go like, I'm not going to be that kind of guy. I'm going to be this thoughtful. I have stories and I have a point. So, but it's like, you do have to kind of learn a little bit of the craft in terms of, like, you know, how to write a joke, how to tell a joke, how to work a crowd. All those things are kind of like, in terms of what we do, that's part of the job, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm not telling anybody like how to do their thing, because that's one thing comedy you can never do is like, you do what you do, buddy. You know, like who am I? Look where I am. I'm a guy staying at a Holiday Inn Express. All right. So whatever you think you want to do it. And the crowd will tell you yes or no. But I think for the younger kids, they have so many no's in their head right now of like, you can't talk about this. And I've seen it where I'm on a roll and I'll like just go like, I'm going to throw more in, you know, getting greedy. Like, hey, they're laughing at this, so I'm going to tag it and tag it and tag it. And then you'll hit the one tag where it's like, you know, and then like, you know, the Baptist preacher said to the, you know, whatever. And then you'll say the one like ethnicity that they're not allowed to, like, you know, talk about. They're like, boom, done, over, you know, whatever. You feel like their iPads, like they turned it off. Like, it's just like, that's it, you know?
Yeah. It's
so, you know, that kind of humor is definitely really a toss up now, you know?
I think some of your most inappropriate jokes have made me fall off a treadmill one time.
Really?
Yeah, it was a joke. It was a joke that you had told, but Yoshi was telling Tom Segura on a podcast, and I listened to it and I fell off. I think that's the fucking thing that I can't understand, is that for me, comedy was always about the shock of it, the surprise, I didn't see that coming of it,
right?
And which is what makes which I don't understand with kids not getting that, like when Louis got in trouble for that school shooting joke,
right? And
I read it and I laughed out loud and I went, well, what does it say about me? Like, I laughed out loud. I read it and I went, that's a good fucking joke.
You know, I have a lot of jokes, of course, that like I'm like, you know, how could I have said that and all that kind of stuff? I feel bad. Like, I hate when people leave and they go like, you know, they're like, I hate tossing anybody. I would never toss anybody out of the room. Either I can handle it or it's a situation where they have to leave. But it's not like one of those, like, somebody, you know, coughed while I was on, get them out. Like, I'm not that that guy. It's like I have the training, like, you know, especially that Long Island training of like dealing with the crowd. That was part of it. But the other thing I would say is like, you know, people quote jokes and then they use it to go like, can you believe this guy? And I'll tell this joke. And it's like, you know, people like use the jokes now as like to promote their own, like, you know, agenda, you know, like, and this guy said this. I mean, that's wrong. It's like they're using the material to like, you know, whether they like it or not, they're retelling the joke. So with stories, since like you and Jay are like great storytellers, I really do think that like it's hard to quote a story. You know, it's like you got to be there and you got to do it. But I've had a million of my jokes, you know, tweeted and like retold and repurposed and all that kind of stuff. And at the end of the day, like, you know, should I feel good about it? Probably not. I should be like, you know, well, come see it and really see what it was, you know. And, you know, unfortunately, you know, I could care less about like the web and all that kind of stuff. But I really do hate like when people like jack my stuff, you know. It's like I want them to hear it the way it was meant to be heard and no other way, you know. And I think that's why we all get in trouble is when they take it out of context and they also like kind of put more of their own agenda on the joke.
More of their emphasis on the thing that you're not supposed to hear, and you go, no, that's not what I was saying.
But you know what you should always say to like, you know, not your daughter, but whatever. It's like, so you have all these things in your head now, all these like different, like, you know, your brain has been fixed now to make it a better world. Are you happy? Are you sitting around laughing your ass off all day long at all these like, you know, watered down like ha-has that you're allowed to listen to? It must be hard. You must have to change your underwear from pissing your pants all day long from all these little little funs that you're allowed to listen to. You know, these little sillies and tickles.
We watched Ace Ventura. Have you seen Ace Ventura?
Yeah.
So we watched Ace Ventura with the girls over pandemic.
Yeah.
And it's a very different movie when you watch it with like woke children. Mm-hmm. They really take the teeth out of it or put teeth in it where they don't belong. So the visit starts and then at first they go, is he like special needs? And I go, what do you mean? They're like, well, I mean,
are we allowed to laugh at him?
Yeah, are we allowed to laugh at him? And I was like, yeah, baby, that's a joke. And they're like, yeah, but I mean, like, is it, he's going to be okay, right? And we're like, oh, yeah. Like, and that never crossed my mind. When I watched that, I just started laughing as a kid. The best is at the end when they find out that Ray Finkel is Einhorn. Remember at the end, they find out that the female detective is a dude, and he pulls her skirt down and then turns around and shows her dick, and everyone's hooked up with her, and they're all throwing up. They're all like,
oh, wow.
The girls are just like,
what a time capsule.
She's trans, right? And we're like, no, that's not the joke. You're missing the joke. But like, they got Dan Marino's going, it's such a fucking, it's so not meant for these kids these days. And same thing happened, you know, this is going to sound crazy.
So how about this? Should they remake the movie now where it is made for them? Or how about they come up with their own idea of what a pet detective is in today's time? Why is it always a reboot of a classic that worked?
Yeah, right.
Like, you know, they're redoing Roadhouse, right?
I saw that. With
so
Jake
what is that going to
Gyllenhaal.
be? Some talking to, some de-escalations? Is there going to be a fight? Will there be one fight in that movie? Will he hook up? Will there be the guy banging the chick in the storage room? Probably not. There will be none of that. None of that
rip
fun.
The throat out of the guy and murder him?
Will there be a blind musician behind a cage? I doubt any of that. I doubt any of that'll be in there. They'll repurpose it. They'll reboot it. They'll put in today's whatevers. You know, I'm really surprised that Top Gun worked. You know, I really was like,
you know what's crazy? They couldn't have Russians or like
for sure.
They had to have the other side was no one knows who we were fighting.
Who are they? Nobody knows.
You can't put Pakistani or not Pakistani, Afghani, whoever, Afghan fighters.
They tried
you can't
to make
put Russian fighters.
Mm-hmm. They tried to make it all. You know, it was really just about like, you know, him doing what he does. You know, so. At the end of the day, like I gave up on all these movies. Anytime they say this is like a classic redone, I'm like, wow, forget it. Where are all these great new ideas that like we get to see these issues in a new format or something like that? It always has to be something like, I don't know if that's coming from the network where like we don't trust it, so we're going to take an idea and redo it, or it's from the artist going like, you know, I always watched, you know, I Dream of Jeannie, and I wanted to see that show from the point of view of a woman trapped in a bottle, so I'm like, okay, why not, but still like, well, I feel bad for you in a way because it's like, I'm sure you get offered probably, if not every couple of weeks, then every couple of months, I'm like, you're the politically incorrect dad or uncle.
Oh, yeah.
You must have been, but like now the idea of like what politically incorrect would be that TV would stand for, it's like, you see this guy, he's not recycling, instead of something like, what's that cross burning on my neighbor's lawn? You can't do that, uncle, somebody. You can't be that guy.
Yeah.
What, are you building pipe bombs in the basement? What are you doing? Now it's like, listen, you got to really, turn the shower off. There's a route out there, like one of those things. Well,
are you leaving the shower in while you put is the water on while you put the soap on?
Yeah, like one of those, like you got to have a submarine shower. You get wet, you get. But I was like, everything like it's like we're all supposed to forget what we've seen. It's like what we thought was funny. I don't walk around all day long going like, oh, these kids or anything like that. You're raising kids, so it's a different story. But I can only imagine just like, and the things that like you see a lot in New York, especially like this entitlement of like, this is me expressing myself, whether it's done, by like, rich kids, like the privileged kids, or just the street people of like, what's the matter? I can't blast my music, as I'm like, basically throwing garbage at cars. Like, this is who I am. This is what I do, like this new sense of entitlement is like so weird,
It is. I don't know. I feel like I kind of curious about what Richard Jenny would have said about it.
I'm sure he would have had a lot to say about it. I think a lot of those, the classic comics, they probably, well, Patrice is a great example because he never took the easy road with any joke. He loved confrontation and he loved to fight. And I think that's what really energized him as a comic. And I think the people like, especially on Tough Crowd, like he was definitely the guy I would say he was the anchor of that show, like going to him and like seeing him like do his thing,
He was, it bums me out sometimes because people say that to me. Man, can you imagine if Patrice was alive, what he'd be saying about this world? Mm-hmm. And then I go, yeah, I'm still alive. I guess I didn't live up to what your expectations are.
Well, he totally would have like had so much to say, especially over the last couple of years with all the protests and all this different things.
Oh, yeah.
It would be interesting to hear his point of view on all of that. But for us, like for me as a comic, is like, I'm not going out of my way to look for a fight. It's I kind of blunder into them sometimes with what I say and all that kind of stuff. But I actively feel bad, like when somebody leaves and they're like, I didn't get it. But then when people come in with a chip on their shoulder, it's like, fuck you. It's like, don't come. Nobody is forcing you ever to come to these shows. Like, it's a choice. Don't come to the show. There's plenty of like whatever types of entertainment for you. Like. Other comics. There's a million other types of comics,
I used to have a joke where I said, I was a blowjob joke, and it was a horrible joke, but I said, I can't get my wife to give me a blowjob. I tried the sensitive approach where you slide it in her mouth while she's sleeping, and a woman lost her fucking mind and started screaming at the top of her lungs, and I was like, well, I'm never gonna hear that. Mm-hmm. It was in New York, oddly enough, at Gotham, and came up to me and yelled at me after the show. And I said, it's a joke. She goes, no. And then all the other people started like backing her up. And then in a weird way, once they started backing her up, I felt vindicated. But at the same time, I was like, I don't even want to be in this conversation. And then I had one joke that I told in DC that was kind of similar. But it was about, regardless, a woman came up to me and said, I'm a huge fan. And I don't think you mean to say what you said in that joke.
Yeah.
And I said, what do you mean? She goes, well, this is what I heard, and this is how I felt. And I think what you meant is to, and I go, that's definitely not what I meant, was to make you feel less than human. Right. And we had a conversation. And I went, oh, yeah, I can totally listen to you all day long. I could listen to that. But like when just people just dig their heel in and just.
No, I know what you're saying. They have every right to react to it however they want to react to it. Especially when you're doing these club shows, it is in your face. That's another part of it where I guess you get addicted to, which is that like you're going to engage with the fans, like there's no way. It's not like a venue where you're going to go out through a tunnel or something like that. You're going to see the fans. You're going to hear what they have to say. And I kind of like, I guess maybe I have like, like like for some reason it's like I want to know what they thought about it. Like I'll go sometimes, like there'll be like a group of like kids, like 5 like 20-year-olds, and I'll be like, did you get that joke? And I'm like focus grouping them because I'm not on the web or anything. And they're like, sometimes like once they realize that, like, I really want to know their opinion, they'll tell me like what they thought about the joke. And it really helps me like see how they process the joke, because I don't know like what's going on in their heads or anything like that. So when you see like these jokes, which used to, let's face it, these are throwaway jokes. Like we just be like, yeah, that's what she said. Those jokes now like have so much more whatchamacallit, they have so much like they're like landmines, that could like really blow you up or like destroy you, So I really, those are the kind of jokes where like, the fun of it where you're just like fucking around. That's kind of over, Well,
it's taking a chance, and like I said, the joke I said the other night was something about I have a joke about wonder if my wife and I would have the same relationship if we were married in the 1800s when I could hit her, and you just hear people groaning, and I go, why can't I just have a fucking thought? Like, why can't you just let me play it out? Like and I said, she's really opinionated, but I respect her for her opinion.
Right.
I would have never gotten to learn to love her opinion in the 1800s. What would I have? I wonder. Like, I was just trying to think the thought out. But doing that in an arena, when you hear that it groans, they're pretty loud.
Oh, for sure. But isn't there a part of you that I think, especially comics of our generations, where it's like there is something to the groan that like it kind of like it's almost like a wet finger in the ass. Sorry. You're like, whoa, that's not right, but don't stop. You know what I'm saying? So there is something to like when they're like, whoa. And like Ari Shaffir and all those guys, like I've seen them like really take the hard road on a joke and stuff like that. And there's some groans and moans, but at the end, Ari's a really good comic. I mean, he's like one of the best, So like he knows how to like bring it around and everything. But like when you're like just working the joke and you're like kind of stuck in that, like, okay, that was a really like horrible thought. How am I going to make it better for you? Where's the cinnamon on that oatmeal? You know?
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, now they're thinking I'm just like a terrible person.
But it's fun to get in. It's fun to get yourself with your back against a wall with a horrible thought. And part of the fun is trying to work your way out of it.
Well, yeah, especially if the people kind of get that. If not, then they're like, especially if they're like what we were just talking about, like the crowd that kind of is looking for damage, is looking for trauma. Then you'd be like, well, that's it. That that's what we call not a fan but a foe for the rest of your life.
Yeah. What are you going to do with this half hour?
I don't know, man. I really don't know what to do. I'd like to have a conversation with you at some point and go like, what do you think of all these different platforms now? I feel like you're like almost above and beyond everybody in terms of like knowing how to get content out. But I'll go through, I think the best thing to do would be edit it, see what it is, and then go, where does this go and where would be a good place for it? And also, I think since I am coming towards the end of it, of like, touring and like, doing all these different things, it would be good to like, have it as part of like maybe other content that I'm thinking about doing, and people could like check it out, clips and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, at the end of the day, I'm going to want it as a solid, like I'm really thinking like 30, 35 minutes. Really? I really enjoyed watching Chris's and also Earthquake, and I felt like
was great.
I'm like I might have put a lot of effort into it, but I still think I'm best tight. You know what I'm saying? Like just tight and like keeping it moving.
What was Can I tell you what I'd love for you to do? I'd
love to hear it. What are you thinking?
I would love for you to lip sync in a
Hitler speech
in a comedy club. Lip sync Skanks for the Memories.
Oh, that would be interesting, wouldn't it?
That would break the internet. Yeah. Like if you like, but what you could get is, I mean, Skanks for the Memories is probably is hands down the best hour of comedy ever recorded. That's being too bad. I'll walk out of here.
If you had a finished house with a doorway, I would walk out. If you had stairs instead of that rope ladder we climbed to get up here. Yeah. No, that's very nice. A lot of people bring that album up to me.
Everyone loves that. Everyone, for us. So I played when the girls were young. It came on just on my phone randomly on the thing, and Leanne, it was like Leanne and I, it's the album I played to see if I could love Leanne because I was in comedy. And she didn't think I was funny, and I thought I was funny, but I needed to make sure we thought the same people were funny.
Oh, that's a good test. Yeah, that's
so
a good
I put
test.
you in, and she was crying, laughing. And
Well,
so
thanks, man.
And so I put.
I'm not very good with compliments, so
I'm not good either. I just deflected one. I just did a press run over at iHeartRadio, and someone said something. I was like, and I totally made myself look like a fucking fool. Like they were like congratulating me on they released this touring list, and I just started explaining why I didn't belong on there, but I'm on the list.
right.
So I was number 4, and I just kept explaining why I shouldn't be on the list.
Mhm.
And then I was like, just take the fucking compliment and shut the fuck up.
Yeah, well, that's cool that you played it with your lady and stuff like that. Because I think even though like I only did one album, I really, really think that's what I really loved growing up, and I still think comedy is always best. And the best compliments I've ever gotten were over like guys in Iraq. They're listening to my album and got me through it. I meet them back in the States, or I saw them on a USO tour, and they're like, your album was so to me that was like, well, I really like, it was like one of those like where you connected and you felt good about it, as opposed to like somebody like I saw a clip, or I saw somebody lip syncing your joke on TikTok or something like that. And that's another thing with like TikTok. Let's face it, it's a game changer, right?
Yeah.
It's all that kind of stuff. Humor wise, like, it's all, if Chaplin was alive, he'd be suing everybody. It's all slapstick.
Yeah.
It's all falling down. It's all, I'm opening this door. What's in there? 1 billion ping pong. It's like all those different kind of jokes that you grew up going like, that's corny. That's like, 1960s, that's whatever. That's not like today's comedy. They like reinvented it and re-energized it. So I don't know. I don't know in terms of like, us being like out of date or anything like that. But I'm like, you guys are not coming up with new stuff. You're just reinventing like stuff I've seen already.
I would love.
I hate to bring it up too, because I'm like, I kind of saw that like on a Smothers Brothers or something. Should make how old you are,
I would love a re-recording of Legion of Skanks, or of Skanks from Memories. I talked to someone about, maybe Stanhope. I think I talked to Stanhope about, I think he has an album that someone else owns, and he can't release it. And he was like, but it's a great album. And he was like, I was thinking about he goes, I'm a better comic now than I was then. I was thinking about just re-recording that hour and making it better, but re-recording the hour, and then, because I own they're all my thoughts. And I thought that was great. I thought it was such a brilliant way to look at, like, because like my first hour that I ever did was for Comedy Central. It's got some good shit, but I bet if I went and remastered it as a comic today, I said, I'm going to do one show. I've worked it out. I've gotten these old bits. Because, it's like, as soon as you do a bit on a special, you make it 1,000,000 times better, like a month later.
Believe me. Oh my God. That is the worst of it all. I'm hating this. It's almost like the guys who get to actually the playoffs, and they're like, if I just had like, tied my shoes a little bit or like something like whatever it was, like I know I would have caught that ball. You're always rethinking that. I didn't know you did that, but I do that. Oh my God, that's terrible. That's a terrible sleep.
I have a joke about that's in this new special, my new special that is, when you get a joke, you go, once I get there, it's good, but in order to get there, it's a little clumsy. But it's fine because I get there. Once I get there, it gets a good pop. Mm-hmm. Well, I found out how to get there quicker this weekend on that joke, and I'm angry. I'm angry that I just want to edit it out of my special and go, let me just use this on the next special, because I feel like I'm like frustrated that I got there. I figured it out 2 months, probably 4 months after I did the special. I figured the fucking joke out.
Oh well,
and so right now
I've been there as well.
Oh my God,
and you're gonna see that in mine. But the one bit that, now that we're talking bits and all that stuff, like your gun bit, like where you're like, I got a gun.
Yeah.
I was like, that's so cool. I was like, and then your examples were really, really fun. Yeah. And I was like, well, that's cool. Because usually, the gun thing is like, a gun. And then like the funny thing. And then this whole like guns are bad, and this and that. And it's like, you have to hammer that in. But you just like told your thing that you did. And then it was funny all the way through. It always makes me laugh when I think about that. It's
thank you.
It's really good.
Gooder makes $25 active sunglasses that don't slip, don't bounce, and are 100% polarized, and only $25. Let me tell you right now, I went fishing with an expensive pair of sunglasses. They were polarized, and as I leaned over the boat, right off my face. They're too heavy. These are lightweight, and I love how comfortable they are to wear all day. I have a few pairs, and I rotate them because they're affordable enough that I can keep an extra set in my car, an extra set in my tour bus, an extra set in my travel bag. I kept a set in my golf bag. Didn't know I had sunglasses in there. Put them on. Dude, they're awesome. I first found Gooder. I've been a fan of Gooder for a long time, but I first found them at a running store. They had them at a running store, and they were like cool sunglasses. We were on tour. I think we were in Seattle, and I've been running with these. When I run outdoors, I only run with Gooder. They're always releasing new colors and collabs, so you can lay low or get wild. If you want to show your support for the show, pick up a pair of Gooder. Gooder is giving Bertcast listeners free shipping on your first order. You can go to gooder.com/Bert and use the code Bert to get free shipping. Gooder offers a 30-day money-back guarantee and 100% satisfaction. Find your pair at gooder.com/Bert and use the code Bert to get free shipping. We celebrate life's biggest moments with champagne, but everyday achievements deserve to be celebrated too. You know that's my brand. Whether it's just simply closing out your to-do list, getting somewhere on time, making it through another day of podcasting, that's reason to celebrate. I'll tell you right now, I swear to God, someone go get me one of these beers. I want one so bad to celebrate. Next time you accomplish something within your everyday, celebrate it with Miller High Life, the champagne of beers, because that's what living the high life is all about. I'm telling you right now, they're racing to go get it. It won't be here in time by the time this reads over, but I'm celebrating. I had a great day today. I woke up early. I worked out hard. My whole life is designed by giving myself something to celebrate about. Welcome to High Life. Living the high life means you appreciate quality and timeless classics. You believe in the best parts of life are not rare or hard to achieve. You celebrate achievements within your everyday. The champagne of beers, like people have done for generations. Welcome. Fuck. Doesn't this look goddamn beautiful? I mean, the glass casing, it's got sunshine in a bottle. Welcome to the High Life. Go to millerhighlife.com/Bert to find Miller High Life near you. Celebrate responsibly. 2023 Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Wait, I wanted to say something else about bits and things like that. Is that I was just thinking there's a marketing thing for us right now. You know, it is Purim, so we might as well think about ways to market this stuff. Is our material, especially these old jokes, will eventually be bought by big corporations to use in their their HR, and we don't want jokes like this and this this in the office. So it's like if they would pay you $100,000 a pop, you'd be like, I wouldn't mind. You can use my little people jokes to say you're not allowed to make fun of them.
That's a great. By the way, immediately I go, that's a great promo video of to promote your special
of the HR company.
Just having like a group of people in a business meeting in a corporate room, and then they go, all right, so just so we're clear, this is the language we're trying to avoid. This is David Attell's new special. It's on YouTube right now. You can go get it if you want. Here you go.
Anybody who's laughed is fired. Just get them out.
Anyone who laughs, you're fired.
Get out of here. I've become, like, as I gotten older, I've become better. I'm a better comic. I wouldn't say I'm like.
Oh, you're way better.
I feel like the old, like, especially all those different jokes. I'm embarrassed now, like when I'm talking about any of that stuff, like vibrators and God. Going down and all that. And I do those things to do the time. I quoted you in Amsterdam. Oh yeah. I said, this is we walked into a sex shop. Uh-huh. And what is the strap on dildo?
You gotta pretend like you never been there. Oh, wow, what's that? Yeah. And then you go out and you kick a midget and you grow a tail. I go, this is the kind of club. I mean, like it for me, it's quotable stuff that I think is like it's the best, man. That Skanks for the Memories is just. I mean, all the stuff what's crazy is when you say you're a better comic today. I agree. When I watched you in Vegas, when I watched you at Fully Loaded, that was amazing. But when I saw you in Vegas, I don't think I've laughed that hard in my life. I quoted that parrot joke to my dad, the parrot now joke to my dad this morning. My dad's a lawyer, and I told my dad, and he was like, "For real? How does he come up with this stuff? You should ask him. How does he? I go, Dad. That's
I have a lot of downtime, so I think that's. But you've always been like really good to me. But I would say that like the jokes I used to do and the jokes I'm trying to do now, like I'm trying to be more adult and all that kind of stuff. And I understand like what, like I left off a bunch of stuff that I'm like, that's just stuff you do to your crowd live. Like you just don't do it. And then like when I was like on the second show, I did like all the vibrator, all that oral bits that I do basically to kill time on stage. And I was like, I might as well get them on tape just for like to have them. So maybe it'll fit, maybe it won't, but it definitely is like so different from like years ago where it was just like, you know, of course, you know, I think Dice set the bar pretty high in terms of like, you know, the guy, I hate to say it, but the guy like, you know, gargling a man's balls, like that's his thing. And what are they, orphans? And that always makes me laugh. I could care less if we were like, you know, in the future, like on Mars, in the colony up there, like that would always make me laugh. The what are they, orphans? Like they always it always it's a burst in my head. Like it just it always activates, I guess, that primal like funny, you know.
Yeah, I love your ability. You had such a great way to.
This should be sent for the death, like when I die. You know, some of these talks.
Well, you know what I did. You know what I tried to do last year on Fully Loaded. I wasn't going to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Is
the memorial shot?
No, I was going to do a documentary on you.
Oh, you were without me knowing,
without you knowing, called "Don't Tell Attell."
Oh, that's
and we
funny.
were all just going to have, because we had all these great comics around who we could interview and talk about you, but then see you interact and see you hang out and watch your stuff and watch my daughter watch your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it became extremely too complicated because everyone started thinking it was a prank show. And I was like, no, don't, you know what? Let's fucking ignore this entirely. This isn't working.
Well, the tour, like there was a lot of great to that tour, but there was also like, you know, with the bus, like, cause I've done bus tours before.
Yeah.
I've done one in years and all that kind of stuff. But like, I realized like I'm too old to sleep on a bus. So I'm like, you know, first of all, I'm up. I don't sleep much at all anyhow. So I'm talking to the bus driver and I was really, you know, and your bus guy is great. That guy is really cool guy.
He loves you.
It takes a certain type of person to do that job, you know, and especially do it right. And, you know, he was great. So like we're sitting up front there and I was like, I'm in his, like, this is like his zone right now. It would be like if I'm doing like a set and it's like, you don't mind if like my cousin comes and watches, he's a big fan. So I'm like watching him. And, and like whenever I watch the guy, I go like, man, I wish I was a better driver. I would be a bus driver because like I'm good at being up at night. I'm a terrible driver, but still like I was like, you know, kind of like jealous of him a little bit. And then after a while, I was like, you know, just like looking at your bus and like, you know, this is Bert's bus, so it's got to be like, you know, of course, like party. And I open that thing and I see all those like meat sandwiches. I was like, wow, this is fucking cool, you know?
I'm buying a new bus.
You are?
Yeah, I'm buying a new bus. And then
what are you going to do to it? Like, how are you going to trick it out?
Oh, I'm letting Isla design it.
Yeah.
And it's just the littlest things. Like,
will it have a free speech circle in the middle for your daughters to?
No. It's funny. George is an Attell fan. Isla's a Hedberg fan.
Yes.
Isla's a big Hedberg. She fucking, he made her slide out of a seatbelt one time. Like,
oh, really?
Oh, my God. And George is too, I think she's too analytical at times. Like, you know, like she was like, this guy's really funny. What's she's what is it called again? Dissecting it. Yeah. She goes, is he on drugs? And I went, well, yeah, he was. And she goes, is he okay now? And I said, he's dead. She went, oh. She goes, I'm gonna have a hard time laughing at this. And I go, well, no, baby, it's fine. It's you can laugh at it. It's comedy. She goes, yeah, but I don't know. I feel like I'm laughing at a guy who I know is about to die. And I was like, finger fuck to like in the back cry, finger fuck to the whole Hands Across America.
So what do they like? What do they do? Like what's, you know, for young kids like that? Like what gets them like is it groupthink? Like do they have to wait till like everybody else likes it? Or
I think that's one of the things. I think I don't think kids do a lot these days. Like I think they live on their phones and they scroll.
So they judge a lot. They get to judge a lot.
Yeah, it's a little bit of this the Caesar feel. It's like they just flip through and they're like, and like I
they definitely are afraid to be pulled out like in a crowd, like, hey, look at this guy, like that kind of like, you know. And I consider like, you know, crowd work, you know, like people do it differently, but I do it my own way. And like, you know, even if the guy or the person deserves a beating, like I will let them off the hook. It's not like I'm going for the throat.
Yeah.
Back in the day, you would go for the throat because it was basically a knife fight. Now it's like this, just like exchange. Someone's drunk, they're yelling out during the setup, which is the worst when they're yelling out stuff during the setup. So now you got to reset it up all the time. So, these are like, compared to like back in the day, these are pillow fights, So, but even then people are like, whoa, I can't believe it. Even like last night at the store, in the main room, which I think is like, that room, like I've heard so many great things about that room and everything. Yeah. Usually when I get there, it's like the crowd is exhausted. Like it was almost like they were there for like a timeshare meeting. They have that look like, so if you really want the timeshare, they're exhausted. They've seen multiple comics, but like people in the front row, they know you're going to be talked to at some point. I mean, sitting in the front of the comedy club is like, you want to be a part of the show. And this guy was like, whoa, it's like we were just sitting here. We were hoping that this place would eventually be turned into a restaurant or something. It's like, how dare you? Like he had that look in his eyes, like, oh, come on. I'm like, oh, okay.
That's happened to me. And by the way, I can seek them out now because I've spent so many times at fucking drop off with my kids. I can seek the people that are out, like they don't really know what they've signed up for and they're in the front row. And but then I feel like I have access to that secret club because I'm around those type of parents that are uptight.
So what's their problem? Let me in on it. What are they? Why are they like that?
Well, they're normally they're probably execs somewhere in Hollywood, and so they are not allowed to be a part of it. It's like I never liked the tapings when they filled it with audience and then lit the audience and then had cameras on the audience to get audience interaction.
Yeah.
So I go, you're asking people to shut down their natural thought process because they know they're being watched. So if they laugh at Nikki Glaser doing an anal sex joke, they're like, oh, my mom's watching this. I don't do anal.
Right.
And so, but yeah, the store is an interesting place because it had such a rep of the biggest comics in the world would be on every show that I've watched people go up that are younger and just people go, oh, you're not famous. Next.
Yeah, like, they're spoiled, the crowd there, because they get all these big acts working on their acts. And I totally agree with you on that, which is that they kind of like turn it on and turn it off through the whole night. I
have had some rough spots in the main room. I have just as many rough spots in the OR.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's like, I don't live in this town. So when I come in,
what did you come out here for?
Well, I'm in between San Francisco and Portland. So I'm coming here and I'm heading up to Portland, another great comedy town. They usually anybody comes to my shows, they know what they're in for, and they really are great. And they, I'm really lucky. I have really good, and I'm not just saying it because like it's my fans. It's like all the guys I tour with, all the people that come on the road, they love my crowd because they get the joke. They like jokes. They also tip well and they treat the staff well, and like they're just great all the way around. Now they're older, so it's more of like it's like this kind of thing of like we're all old. But even the new ones that come in, they get it right away that like you're going to hear a lot of jokes and like it's going to be, it's going to be that kind of an experience and you might be a part of it as well. So I'm very lucky to have that crowd. And anybody who tours with me, I mean, like they that's like the best compliment you can ever get is like, I love your crowd.
Your crowd. I would love.
And I loved your crowd too. Like touring with you was like, I was like, these people like, I was like, I hope I'm fun enough for them. I was like, what am I going to do? Like, I know that they want like it big, they like it bold, Well,
it's funny because I think our crowd, I think they see.
There's some crossover. Yeah.
I think what's interesting is when I say our, I'm thinking me and Tom's, because we pretty much share an audience. Oddly enough, it's getting less and less like that. The bigger we get, it's really kind of bizarre. Like we went to NASCAR and I got recognized maybe 500 times, and Tom was like anonymous, and I was like, wow, my fans are NASCAR fans, and Tom, I would always think we share fans, but what I think for the most part when we did that Fully Loaded, I think it's fun when they see you because I think part of them it's like going like when you eat a dish and then you're like, wow, what's that taste? And they're like, oh, it's saffron. And then you smell saffron. You're like, oh, that's totally saffron. I think they see you and they go, oh, so that's who Bert and Tom were trying to be. They go, oh, I get it. Like, because
you guys are your own thing.
You were such a heavy, you're talking about in the beginning when you're trying to learn how to do comedy. I think the way majority of people learned was by watching someone and then going, how would that guy do it?
Mhm.
And then emulating them until they can figure out their own voice.
Well, I'm very spoiled with comedy because I get to go on, especially at the Comedy Cellar, which I guess you could say, like, I've been there so long, I can almost not remember being there,
Yeah.
And the New York comedy scene, like Caroline's closed,
I know.
and I bet you, like, when you were younger, like, being headlining at Caroline's was a big deal. Like,
Doing
that
a
was like one of
spot
those,
at
like,
Caroline's was a
I
big
finally got a
deal.
place I can tell my mama and my papa to come and
Yeah.
see. Like, you felt like, now they'll think I'm really a comic because I'm playing on Broadway. And it was such a big deal. And at the end, like, when it, like, unfortunately, the club closed, you were like, that is the end of an era. I always played the same week, the Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's. And it was like this thing, and like the staff and everybody would get pumped for these crowds that would come in. And some of them were great. Some of them were like tourists, like just tourists coming right, like they staying at the Embassy Suites down the block,
Yeah.
and they saw like a sign or something. But like, it was always fun either way. That, like, that was my end of the year. I was like, okay, I do Caroline's. I get to sleep in my own bed, and then there's New Year's, and then it start again, like whatever the new year will hold for me.
Yeah.
But now, like, without that, it's kind of like that was a real touchstone for me. And I think, a lot of comics felt the same way, that like Caroline's was definitely one of those pinnacles that you're like, hey, I got to play Caroline's, So I was very lucky that I got to play there as often as I did.
I didn't play there a lot, but the times I did play there, were like, that's where I first saw Richard Jenny.
Mhm.
And then Patrice made me go with him to watch Paul Mooney. I know who Paul Mooney
Paul was like he was an icon there, for sure.
And he had a bottle of champagne with him on stage, and he was, very slow to start. And I'm sitting with Patrice, and I'm trying to figure out what Patrice sees in him that like, I'm like, why am I here?
Right.
And then immediately next to me, I hear the most recognizable laugh in comedy, and it's fucking Eddie Murphy, just right next to me. And I'm like, and Patrice is like, yeah. And Patrice's statement was kind of weird, but he's like, if you want to see the comics that make Eddie Murphy laugh, and so watch him. You won't get it. He's like, you're not going to get a lot of this, but that's the point.
Yeah, he was kind of ahead of the curve on a lot of things, especially with he was another guy where it's like the anger that he had, like he was able to like filter it into the through his act into the funny, the undeniable funny of it. So, like all of us, sometimes it was he was just like, he was another guy where, like, to be honest, I'm not as familiar with his stuff as I should be, or like I never really saw it, but like there was more to the guy than just his he was he was just another one of a kind, like to this day people can say, like with the other comics, Paul Mooney, and they know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah. So when you come out to LA, who do you hit up? Do you like
who do I hit up?
Like what friends do you hit up?
Well, all the the usual ones. Heidi Fleiss, Tom Sizemore, God bless him. No, all the people.
Tom Sizemore recognized me towards the end
He
of his
did?
life. We were on.
That was a sad end, man. That was too quick.
He came up to me, and it was on Lancashire. No, not Lancashire. Larchmont. In Larchmont, I was going to get my hair cut,
Mm-hmm.
and he was trying to figure out a parking meter, and he was clearly inebriated, and he was talking on the phone trying to figure out a parking meter, and I was like, oh fuck, I know that guy, and I was like, it's Tom Sizemore, and he's like, hey, you're funny as fuck, and I was like, oh thanks, and this is a while ago too, this is a long time ago, and I was like, oh, I'm a fan for life.
Where did he see you? Do you think he saw you at the Comedy Store? Because that used to be like a big hang for celebs,
It must have been, it might have been on just something online. I doubt he was a big podcast listener. I don't know.
Another, I don't know how much time we got, but like when Bud Friedman passed, that was also another big, like, that was a guy who, like, whatever, gave me first shot, whatever, on his show. Just like Caroline's Comedy Hour, there was the whatever that, what was it called?
Evenings at the Improv?
Evening at the Improvs and all those things. And like, all that VHS basic cable comedy, like, there's something to it. There was just like a sliminess to it that's like addictive. Like when you watch it, that one camera, just that flat, you're wearing like your best duds and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's like that kind of weird thing about it. But Bud was definitely another. He was an icon. He was a living legend in comedy before he passed, and now he's just like epic. So
I saw him towards the end of his life.
but that was another club where like it's a fun hang. The Melrose Improv, and same thing with the store and all that kind of stuff. I never worked the Laugh Factory as much as like I always felt like I was kind of out of my league. Like the crowds were better looking, the comics were better looking.
Yeah.
It was almost like like. During the day, we're a model agency. At night, we were a comedy club. But that place was a rock. That was like a rock club for a while. Like it was killing it. Yeah.
I worked there once, and he told me I went long, and I knew I didn't, and I was like, okay. And then I called in my avails, and I just was like, I was like, I don't need to do 3 spots tonight. I'll do 2, and so I just kind of avoided it, and then.
But Jamie's always been good to me. Like maybe it's the fact that like. He got it. He was like, I'd love you to come by here. But it was like there was so many power acts like working there that it was like one of those where like you better bring like your last 20 minutes on the road here. Yeah. It's not like you're going to come up with a new bit here.
It was not like you're going to work stuff out.
Yeah, no, it's like this crowd it's the shallow end of the pool. I mean, these people, look at them. A lot of them, just got their nose done, their cheeks done to be here.
So wait, are you doing a spot tonight?
Yeah, I'm probably going to go out tonight. And I can't... Well, I can say where, right? Because it's not airing tonight, is it?
Yeah, no.
I'll probably go over the Improv tonight. Yeah, you should come by.
I have to write so badly. But
wow, you're really like in this head right now of writing.
Yeah.
How do you do it? Like, do you have a notebook?
Well, it used to be so fucking easy. It used to be so easy. I do have a notebook.
Do you remember when everybody would walk around with a notebook? Do you remember all that? And they put it on the chair.
I still have a notebook.
They'd open it up.
I still have a notebook. Yeah.
The only guy I ever saw actually write in a notebook was Mitch Hedberg. That thing was full of thoughts and drawings and like jokes. Everybody else, it was like, here's my notebook. It's like, oh, what's your number? Okay, let me write it down in this whole empty page of no jokes.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, it's like, I remember I like my notebook. I had the notebook, and then I would do it like, just like pieces of paper. It almost looked like I was at a racetrack.
Oh,
like it would be like, hold on a second.
Slips.
Yeah, I was like, what is this?
I do it in my phone. I do it.
Yeah, that helps.
I write it. I write down. For me, it'll be a thought. I can't write full form. I have to talk it out on stage, but it'll be a thought. It'll be like one word, like abortion or adoption, and then I'll know the thing. But I enjoy. It used to be so much easier to do.
Do you listen to your tapes?
Yeah. When I'm getting ready for a special.
See, I try and listen to them, at least 2 or 3 times a week. Like I like beat myself with like a tape.
Yeah.
And before I was getting ready, I listened to a lot more. But these sets are way easier to listen to, these 20-minute sets. Yeah. Way easier to listen to. You get kind of like the new jokes. You get like whatever old joke you're working on, instead of going through all of that like patter, all of that.
So what's the plan? Are you going to keep doing these 30 minutes and keep releasing them?
I don't know. This could be it for me. I really don't think I have much more in me in terms of like stand up. Like I feel like I've, I peaked a while ago, and this is just kind of like the fumes. No, you're too good to me. You and Tom are like too good to me.
Tom and I'll tell you what.
Hey, listen, there's no Santa Claus. Grow up.
Stanhope asked if he could be the one to tell my daughters.
Oh, that's hilarious.
He goes,
that would be a great cameo. He'd be that guy on Cameo.
Guys, that's a great cameo.
Yeah. I'm the guy who tells your kids there's no Santa.
Doug should pay. I think he wrote a book about it. About a child's book of how to tell your kids there's no Santa Claus.
He did?
Yeah, I think so. He was here the other day. We were hanging out the other day.
Where is he now? He's
in Australia.
Wow.
He's in Australia right now.
I don't know how he does it, man.
I don't. I mean,
like he's going to be there for what, like a couple of months?
Yeah.
Yeah, like Chappelle and Jeff Ross were over there too. It's like, I guess have you been there?
Yeah.
I've never been there. It's like the flight.
You want to come with me?
The flight scares the shit out of me.
I'll fly you first class.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's still 15 hours. Can you fly me SpaceX? Can you get me there? Can you get me there in 2 packs of cigarettes?
Dave, here's my pitch. Okay, come to Australia with me. All right.
Yeah.
I'll fly you first class from New York.
Yes, and then I'll take it.
And then we'll go to Bali.
Oh wow!
I'll go to Bali for a couple days after the tour.
Why don't we split the difference and go to Indonesia? There's a coup to be had. Hey, well, let's talk about it afterwards. But that's a nice invite.
Because a guy like you, man, like I worked with Ian Bagg this weekend, and
another very funny guy.
And man, when you, I did it with Fitzsimmons was the same way. Chris Porter, worked with Chris Porter in Boston, and it inspires you to fucking create. Like it really, like when you watch people legit fucking murder, you go, oh, I got to step up my game. It's, you know, for my fans, but I got to write, and it's just, I don't know. It's
How
like
are your fans over there?
Australia? Identical to here.
Really?
Identical. They look the same. They act the same.
White. You can say it. White.
They're white. I got so fucked up in Australia last time.
So you should go with another guy who drinks. I don't drink anymore. I'd be such a a dead weight.
I don't.
I'd be like, come on, let's go to the Olivia Newton-John Memorial, and you'd be like, I'm drunk, dude.
No,
I don't want to go.
Dave, here's the thing about drinking is like I never understood this. I don't care if you drink. I just want to drink.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
It's like my wife doesn't drink. It doesn't affect our relationship.
How about these kids now? Like, so what do? They vape. What do they do?
Vape. They vape. White Claws.
Yeah,
White Claws.
I've jokes on all these things, whether they're funny or not.
Vaping White Claws, and I think they all eat mushrooms.
Oh yeah,
mushrooms has had a huge resurgence.
I know.
You know they sell. You know Coke's legal in Vancouver now.
Well, in Portland they give it to you at the airport. Portland they give you a syringe and go out there and be somebody.
2 grams of pharmaceutical grade cocaine.
Yeah,
in fucking Vancouver.
Wow,
you can get it at a dispensary.
How weird is that?
I don't really do coke anymore. Like I just it's just.
But you would do it up there, right?
I'd have to.
Just for the experience of it. And do they do it like you know cokeheads? So they probably wait to go home or to be with friends and do it. I bet you they're doing it on the door on the way out.
Yeah, on the way out.
Me again.
Well, you can only buy 2 grams.
Yeah,
and then you can buy black tar heroin there. I think that was someone told me that, and I was like, that's got to be fucking insane.
And you know what's really suffering in that town?
What?
The whale watching cruises. They're not drawing the numbers they used to. I remember you go to Vancouver, it's like, what can you do around here? Well, you can get on a boat and like there's a whale thing and like there's maybe see a whale. And now it's like there's a full tilt drug market going on there.
Wait, what would you do for that plane flight? Would you need to smoke on it?
I think you'd have to put me like in a ventilator in the storage area and like awaken me when I came out.
Okay, how about this? Let's find out.
See, I can't leave the country. So, well, my mom has dementia, so I always have to be within like one flight. That's too far a flight for it.
Yeah.
I've been offered to go to Europe a million times. I've been offered to go to Australia a million times. But like right now, I have to stay domestic. But that is something that like I'd also like to go. You know, when I used to do the USO tours, like I would go to the Middle East. Like, you know, I was going there for the troops. But now there's actual shows like in Jordan, all these different things.
Really?
So it'll be interesting to see how I would play in these markets, you know, to these different people.
Murder.
You think I would? Someone would get murdered. I know that.
I would love to have your act. I would love.
Dude, at the end of the day, like you go to Australia, something like that, you got to be there for how long? 3 weeks, 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
Yeah,
3
I figured,
yeah.
right?
3 weeks, yeah.
Now, do you ever play New Zealand as well?
Yeah, so I'm doing Auckland and then doing 2 shows another show in somewhere in New Zealand. And then
what's that like? What's the Auckland show like?
They're the fucking they're podcast fans. They're like people there, they listen to the podcast. And
what else
Netflix.
can they do? They're so far away. Like whenever I see them at the cellar, at the Comedy Cellar, like 2 New Zealand people come in, I go, you know, like, thank you. Like, you know, I thought, you know, it's almost mythical.
Oh, it's
that place.
beautiful over there. It
is?
Oh my God, it's fucking gorgeous. New Zealand's like Australia, except it doesn't have any of the animals that kill you.
Oh yeah.
Australia's got so many deadly fucking animals. Like, and every sign's written in English and in German because Germans don't have any predators. They don't have any predators around them. So,
you mean the animals and stuff?
Yeah, and no predatory animals whatsoever in Germany. So Germans live this carefree life where they just walk into the woods and jump into a lake and nothing could ever kill them. There's no snakes, there's no nothing. So when they go to Australia, they die at like 10 times any other nationality.
Wow.
The Germans die like crazy. So because they go, oh, look at this water hole, we jump in, huh? And then a crocodile grabs them and fucking takes them to their cove and rests with their body. Yeah,
well, that's what side of Australia is that? That's the what would it be? Because that's
on the east side, northeast is where all the crocodiles are.
Okay,
and then I'm sure there's some probably.
And you've done
elsewhere.
through the whole you've been through the whole continent.
I've been all over Australia, and I'm going this year. I'm going to a place called Exmouth, where I'm not doing a show there, but maybe I should. It's a really small place, but it's fucking gorgeous.
I'd love to go. It's just like right now at this point, I don't know if I can, but that flight is intimidating. And I know there's comics now that they private jet it, but it doesn't matter how you do it. It's a long, long flight. And then you have to go through customs, and I'm looking at like maybe a day and a half away from a cigarette again, you know? So that to me is like, wow.
Hey, have you tried the Zins? That's what the kids are using.
Is it like the chewable?
No, it's the little white pouch that all the kids use Zins.
Well, no, I
Girls
haven't
and boys.
zinned it yet, but I still haven't found anything that equals the, I'm sure Doug will back me up on this with the, you know, because he's like a master of cold turkey where he's like, I lock myself in a trailer and I'm just going to write a book and not smoke a cigarette. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty intense that you could do that. And on the road, it's really hard to find a place not only to smoke, but also to sit down and smoke because, you know, they removed all benches and stuff like that because of the, you know, terrible situation we have on the streets now. You know, people camped out and everything like that. So
I thought you were going to say COVID.
No. COVID was like whatever. I'm heading to Portland, so like smoking on the street. You know, it's basically smoking just a cigarette.
Yeah.
They know you're from out of town. Like it's like, why are you not smoking opium? You know,
when you go into a hotel room, do you smoke in hotel rooms?
No, I never do that.
Really?
I guess I'm like too much of a rule follower, but I remember the hotels where we could smoke, and like Vegas, like I know they're trying to make some smokeless hotels. I'm like, that's part of the experience of Vegas. You're supposed to go there and like be able to like do stuff. You know?
Smoke a cigar indoors. But wait, do you remember when you could smoke on planes?
I think I was like the last, like the last flight of that or something like that. Yeah. And they already had everyone in the back.
1995, we flew to Europe, and my buddy Weicho was like, I'm going to get a smoking seat so I can have some cigarettes, have a drink, have a cigarette. And it was
intense, right?
So intense.
Yeah.
He had to sneak back up to regular and find a seat in regular.
It's like a wall of it.
I can't fucking deal. It was so much smoke.
Well, I'll just say this as a taxpayer and a smoker, that these airports, especially that when they took the one little smoking area, like in Vegas, they have that glass booth where you get to see, it's almost like an exhibit of people chain smoking. I was like, there was no reason why they should have done that. Like, we're the ones paying for these airports. They should have made it a little bit easier for us to smoke in an airport. I can understand the hotels. I can understand the hospitals, all these different places. Yeah. But that was the one thing I was like, I get it. This is like the one bad habit everyone's allowed to like jump in on, but it's still like California is a good example where like you're paying 10 times the amount of what a cigarette pack costs. Same thing like with New York, $15 a pack. Whereas, you played the South. Yeah. You go down to like whatever, Huntsville, Alabama. It's like, I'm sorry, these are $8 a pack. Can you afford that? Yeah, I can. Give me 2 cartons. This is like great.
I tried to get Georgia to start smoking, my oldest.
You did?
She was vaping, and I said, I don't like the vape. I go, I'd rather you smoke a cigarette. Enjoy a cigarette. Cigarettes are
No, they've been told it's terrible.
And she goes, they're bad for you. I go, you think the vape is good for you?
The vape is, I have that joke where vape is killing kids,
Yeah.
And, to be honest, like, I never got, people gave me those jewels and everything like that. And I'm like, so how do you charge this? I go, you got to put it in your computer. I'm like, this is the most unfun experience ever, It's like a zip drive of breath,
I miss cigarettes. I woke up the other day in Calgary, and I've never wanted, Segura just started smoking, so did Rogan.
He's smoking cigarettes?
Yeah, before he goes on stage, he'll have a cigarette.
Wow, because he was like, he's always with the weed.
Anti-cigarette.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy.
Well, so nicotine, like there's this huge movement that nicotine is really good for you. It staves off Parkinson's.
It does?
Dude, it's really good for you.
I can't believe it.
Yeah, nicotine's really good for you. It's just smoking isn't the best delivery mechanism.
Oh, it's terrible,
for it.
Yeah.
And so Rogan was vaping for a period of time, and then smoking cigarettes before you go on stage. Segura's back, full blown smoking cigarettes.
Oh, really?
Like he's back. He's smoking cigarettes.
Wow.
And so everyone around me smoking, and I wake up in Calgary the other day. I'm hungover, and I go outside, and it's cold as fuck.
It always is cold there.
And someone next to me lit a cigarette, like right outside. The woman lit her cigarette, and I could smell. I know you'll know this taste.
Yeah.
But the first drag of a cigarette has a distinct flavor to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I could smell that flavor, and I wanted one so bad. And I thought like DePaulo just started smoking. And I thought,
wouldn't that be funny if Nick DePaulo started smoking menthol? That'd be like, I can't help it. It's just the cool flavor.
I can't help it. I feel like Atticus Finch.
But I was gonna say, like, with the smoking is like, you're addicted. Like, I was in Oklahoma, and like weather was coming. In Oklahoma, it's always in extreme weather, and it was driving rain. It was like so hot, and then it was driving rain, and I'm the only idiot out there, like behind a pillar, like trying to smoke. It's like I could have been killed with the pool chairs from
1 foot in a basement.
Yeah, no, I was like, this is the time where they should be like, you can smoke in the lobby. It's really so dangerous out there. But like everybody's like, don't go out. Don't go. I'm like, I'm just gonna I'll be careful. But it was just like shit was flying by me. Like tables, cows, things are flying, and I'm still smoking out there. I'm like, this is pathetic.
Do you think you'll ever drink again?
Probably towards the end of my life, I probably will. No, because like there's times when I do think about it. Then there's other times where I'm like, I'm so glad like that's not part of like what I do anymore. It's like, to be honest,
why did you drink? Like, 'cause
why did I?
Yeah, like
I grew up on Long Island and we all drank, and I would say that like that was a cultural thing there where like we were all drinkers,
Yeah.
And this was before like pot was as available, that was illegal. So when you did smoke pot, you knew that was like, you're going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
But now I think kids have so many other drug choices and so many other like ways to, I guess,
get high without holding it in your hand.
Yeah. But the point is like, they're out drinking, and like, I know money's a big deal with these kids, like now with, loans and all that kind of stuff, but I've never seen more kids go out and drink, expensive. It's not like, I'm just having a couple of beers. Like they're drinking high end, top shelf stuff, and they're doing drugs, and they're partying the way everybody always parties in their 20s, but yet they're always crying about money. And I'm like, well, you're out there like the rest of us. You're spending money you shouldn't be. So, whatever. That's an old man talking. But for your own information, it's like, there is something about a whiskey on a cold day. That's pretty cool.
There's a lot. Okay, so when the day you decide to start drinking, just let us know and we'll put a dream team together.
That'd be great.
Get Mark Normand. He's a big whiskey guy.
Yeah, he likes whiskey, and Sam drinks too.
Shane Gillis is a big Bud Light guy.
Of course.
Ari's been a big booze bag lately.
Really?
Yeah, he just loves. I mean,
beware the thin drunk. Yeah, that's what we used to say.
Really?
No, I don't know.
I guess I got no worries coming to me.
The guy's thin and he's a drunk. Yeah. Watch out.
But yeah, that's I always try to wonder like why I drink. When I quit drinking, I remember myself. I go, I remember this guy. Like this guy's a different guy.
Well,
it's like when you shave your beard and you see your face, you go, well, I haven't seen you in forever.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah.
Vulnerability, fucking holy shit.
Well, I feel like like on your tour, I saw you having a couple of pops, and I was like, that's right. It's like, why wouldn't you enjoy yourself? And, it didn't get in the way of all the other stuff. It's not like, it's like, where's Bert? We're supposed to be shooting this. You were there. You're like on Long Island. It was the whole thing is like, you can get drunk, but, you're still going to work with a hangover because you promised that you'd go in. So it wasn't like this, like, it's a big excuse kind of thing. I don't know. I mean, I think we did a lot of dumb things just because we thought it was cool to do it. And now these kids, I think the one thing that I never would have gotten, whether it's now or then, was this whole like organic food movement of like less tasty food at 3 times the price.
Yeah.
I'd be like, no, I'm not going to eat that. I'd be like, this is dumb,
What do you remember the last night you drank?
Oh, there were so many last nights, but I would say that the week after you quit, when you get the headache of like, where's the booze? Yeah. That's an interesting experience. 'Cause, you're not supposed to go cold turkey on stuff like that. And you really do feel it with booze. I don't know. I've never done heroin or anything like that, but I assume that it's the same kind of like, whoa, your body is now like, basically like, where is that thing that you need to get through the day, But I didn't drink all day. I drank at night. I was pretty like with the shows. Like, have you ever been drunk on stage? You know how bad that is. Like, just where it's like, this is a mess, Yeah. So
I got drunk on stage one time. I got drunk before I got on stage, and then on stage I got drunk, and it didn't go well. And Bert, who's now been sober for a very long time, he said, I got off and he was giggling, and he goes, "There's a reason they don't let you drink and drive.
Yeah,
your timing's off."
For sure.
And I was like, oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
Bill's another guy who I think we all owe him a lot of credit because he always takes the, like he, like there's a lot of guys that put their face in the storm, and take the heat.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he's definitely one of those guys who makes it a lot. Doing his Patrice benefit, have you done it?
No.
I'm sure you've never done it.
I've never done it.
Wow, man, you should definitely do that.
I think he keeps it for the guys that, like I knew Patrice, but I was all younger than you guys.
Well, I can't say that I was, I was more of a fan than a friend of Patrice. So at the end of the day, like every time you do it, you're like, it's cool to be around the people who knew him.
Yeah.
But I think that they have so many different type of acts, and they always like, I've been there times where it was like, Pete Davidson, it was like a huge fan and a really cool. He's also a really good comic. I mean, Pete really
great.
deserves more credit.
Pete's great, and I saw him 2 weekends ago.
Yeah,
he looks phenomenal. Like he looks like, I know Pete's gone through some stuff.
Sure,
he looks awesome. His energy was fucking great. He was the happiest I've seen him in forever. I was like, I'll take whatever he's on.
Right. Well, Pete,
and I'm sure it's just not drugs and alcohol. I'm sure he's just sober.
But like when I would do those benefits and they'd have all these like big guests drop bys, I was like, that's so cool that like these guys came down to support Patrice's family and everything like that. But you would be awesome there because that crowd that comes for it, when people come up to me, they go, I saw you at the Patrice benefit. They are super fans. They love it,
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, Bill's
been doing that now for it's got to be more than 10 years now, I think. I think it's actually coming up on the 15th anniversary, whatever it is. Whatever.
It's been dead for 15 fucking years.
It can't be that long, but it's definitely a long road where Bill has done that, and like if it wasn't for him, like that's how things stay active and stay hot,
Yeah. Well, I'll let you get out of here. I don't want to. I'll hold you forever, Dave.
Oh no, it's always great seeing you, and I hope to be asked back when the house is finished.
Yeah. Well, I'll have you on the.
There was 3
show.
guys downstairs who wanted me to help them put up a drywall.
Yeah. You're the only reason I know Gilbert Gottfried.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because
that was one of our,
we did, and I almost burned that house down making, do you remember that, Rachel? I made fish and chips.
Oh, that was terrible.
But Gilbert only did it because you were doing it.
Oh, really?
Because he didn't know me, and he got there early, and he goes, and I don't know what was going on with him, physically, if he was sick or not, but he was like, it was funny. The second the camera turned on, he was fucking alive.
For sure.
And then when it was off, he was just very very meek is the right way to say it.
I'd say spectrum, but yeah, you can use meek.
And he goes, I don't know who you are. And I was like, oh, I'm a big fan. And he was like, no, I'm here because of Dave. And I went, oh, cool. Well, I'm excited to have you, Gilbert. And so I got to hang out with him because of you. So thank you.
Gilbert was a big deal for me as a kid, and also when I got to get to know him and his family, and me and Jeff Ross, we kind of he kind of was in our fold, and Jeff is super, Jeff is a great to his family, Dara and the kids and everything like that. And Jeff's memorial for Gilbert was hilarious.
Really?
I mean, Jeff is really good at that stuff. It was like seeing the rabbi crying with tears and just this really sad situation. Jeff is he really is the best of the best when it comes to that kind of stuff. He really is.
And Jeff was the first guy to really kind of connect older comics with younger
for
comics.
Sure. And
I remember that whatever happened to the Friars Club?
I really don't know. I keep walking past it in New York, and it's kind of open. I think it is open now. It's beautiful in there. By the way,
how do you get in?
You I really it used to be where you another friar would have to put your name forward, and you have to go through an intricate whatever vetting. But I assume now it's just one of those where you just give them your you walk in, sign a couple of things. But no, I'm sure they still have initiation.
Jeff. I want to be in the Friars Club.
Oh, they would love you. And,
I would love
and
that.
It's also a really great place, just how they set it up. I don't know about the one out here. I think the one out here is way bigger than the one in New York because everybody moved this way.
Yeah, and so it's crazy. I would love to be in the Friars. I gotta text Jeff today.
Tell Jeff. Jeff is if he's not the head friar, he might be the abbot by now.
Yeah,
because he really has he revitalized that whole group, and he really it was way overdue too. Jeff was definitely right to connect with these guys, and he's friends with them as well. It's not like he's it's he's friends with them. But the Gilbert thing that I always thought was funny is there's a lot of different Gilberts, but the Gilbert that we all know at the end, we do these long, incredibly drawn out, dirty jokes. There's sometimes where I'm just whatever, I'm going to, I'm getting ready for something, and I'll just start doing one of his jokes, and it's just you can really do it You start it, you take a shower, you're still telling the joke, you come back out and it's all filthy.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, that was just so much fun. I miss him. I'd love to see that live. If you can, check out his impression of the Dice Man. I believe it's from the 90s or whatever.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Really?
It's just like Gilbert, old like Gilbert at like, I guess you could say like his prime, and he's on some TV show and he's doing the Dice Man and he totally overdoes it. And it's just like this gibberish craziness, but it always makes me laugh. So Gilbert was like, I was very lucky to get to know him, and I was there when he passed away and everything like that. But the funny thing about Gilbert was that when he did your show, you know, he loved being on TV. He was kind of like the opposite of me. Like, I'm like, you know, I don't really want to be that known and like movies. I could care. Gilbert loved the attention. He loved show business and he liked the whole thing. You know, you wouldn't know that, but when you talk to him, so quiet and kind of like introverted, but like there were things that really activated him. And like, you could just tell by like his act, like he loved like celebrity scandals and stuff like that. All those different things. Like it really would, like his eyes would light up. He would love to talk about that stuff.
Yeah, he was great. God, I guess one day I'll be the dead comic, huh? Well, kind of depressing.
First of all, I think you're just getting started. That's what I always say. Cause like, there's a lot of guys that like, you're thinking, can it get any better? And I'm sure it can. And I think we're all in that moment now where it's like, what's the next thing? What's the whatever thing? And for me, it's just like, if I can get people to keep coming out and I can keep coming up with jokes, I'll be more than happy. That's really what it is. Whether I get on that stage through wheelchair or through lift, I will try and keep doing it, So thank you, buddy.
No, of course, man. I think you're my favorite. I would say to everyone, you're Leanne's favorite. I'm bummed she's not here. She's in Vietnam. Or
she is. Yeah, they called her up?
Yeah. I sent her over to learn how to be a real woman.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, she was talking back a little bit.
What can I ask what's happening with that movie of yours?
It's coming out Memorial Day weekend.
It is.
Yeah, I leaked the sizzle teaser on Rogan.
Awesome.
And
where did you shoot that?
I shot it in Serbia.
Yeah, I guess you had to.
For 3 months in Serbia.
I guess you had to.
And so I leaked the sizzle or the teaser on Rogan, and it got a big traction, like went viral. And then everyone decided, they were like, oh, let's release it.
And how do you feel about that?
I'm excited, but I'm nervous because it's like
it's tough times for something like that, right?
No.
Is it about Russia?
No. That was the big concern.
Yeah.
Is that
I figured it would be.
People were like terrified.
That love letter to Russia is over.
And I was like, well, it's not. I said, that's not what this movie's about. It's about a father and son getting kidnapped by the Russian mafia.
Right.
Like, it's not celebrating Russia. And so when I leaked the teaser, they kind of looked and tracked comments regarding Russia, and they got 0. Yeah. But the wokeness was there, and they wanted to make sure that, there was a lot of things. There's so many things that, with corporate America that they have their radar up for, and rightfully so sometimes.
Sure.
Because they don't want, ultimately it's a $30 million investment. I think if it was my money too, I would be like, hey, I'm not just going to piss away my fucking money.
For sure,
because you got a gut feeling. And so...
No, because I was thinking about that when I heard you were doing the movie,
and
then the way things are going right now, I'm like, that's a really tough one. That's a really if it is like heavy duty Russia, because
it's
the bad
fine.
guys. So
it's fine. They're the bad guys in this movie too.
Well, that's good then.
Yeah. So they've always been the bad guys.
Well, you should have had let Zelensky do a cameo. In the movie,
I wish.
he's a comic as well. He's a little busy right now, but so
I wonder if he's still doing spots.
That would be funny. It's like, I was playing the funny bone in Poland. In Krakow. I was gonna say, like, so that's a really cool thing. So this is your first movie, right?
My first movie.
Where you started, like when Artie Lang, who was another really good friend of mine, when he was doing Dirty Work, right?
Oh, yeah.
Whatever. It's like, I didn't think that movie would come out as well as it did, and that's a great movie. I put that in the top 20 of comedy movies. I mean, it's got Norm in it. It's got Don Rickles in it. Am I right?
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Don Rickles was in that one as well.
Chris Farley's in it.
Yeah, so there's like a lot of big comedy names of the moment. So that to me is like, that's pretty cool that like, that was like Artie. Unfortunately, Artie's still going through different things right now. But, I miss seeing him out on the road. I also miss seeing him, just as a friend, but like seeing him on stage, like he was another guy, like his stories were like undeniably funny. I mean, like
Him
so
on
real.
Stern,
All these people
too.
is like talking about their real, like, you know, these boring real stories that happen. And this is like a real, like, crazy stuff that happened to him. It was like, man,
Artie
I couldn't
is
stop listening and watching.
the fucking best. Those are always been the guys I've been drawn to, is like the Belushis, the fucking Arties,
the broken
yeah,
men.
and I wonder if it's because I wasn't really broken, but I admired brokenness.
Right.
Does that make sense? Like
I think it's like there's definitely a sense of danger and whatever to it. You know,
there's something sexier about it being hungover in an airport at 8 a.m. than being with your shit together looking for a paper.
I assume it's like with your daughters when they see Machine Gun Kelly, or I'm trying to think of the people that they would.
He lived next door to us.
He did.
Yeah, he lived next.
He
door
has
to
a good
us.
sense of humor. That guy, man. I
Really?
saw him in a prank show or whatever where they hit him on the Jackass movie.
Oh, for real?
Wasn't he being the guy being hit in the pool or something?
Getting hit in the pool.
I was like, that's pretty, you know, for one of those kind of guys, that's pretty fun.
Oh, he's from Cleveland. I figure anyone from Cleveland's got to.
Sure.
Cleveland's one of my favorite comedy towns there is. Hilarities is fucking.
Yeah, that is a great club.
Great
Classic
fucking club. A great fucking club.
It's a classic club, and the crowds there are they're really cool.
Yeah, I love all of Ohio. All of Ohio was always good to me.
What on this tour, what are the towns? Because you know, I wanted it on the last one. You said you were doing Mississippi. I've never played that state.
But I'm playing Mississippi next week.
You are.
Or then 2 weeks. I'm playing maybe 3 weeks. I'm playing Tupelo.
Okay, see, I was like, man, I'd love to do that date because I've never played Mississippi.
Well, you want to do the Southern run?
What?
You want to do a Southern
I don't
run?
think I can do it with my schedule now. I probably could go back and forth with the people and But that's really nice of you.
I think let me tell you something.
But I'm like, what are the towns that, like, you know, what are the towns you're looking forward to? Because these are some different ones from last year, right?
Yeah, they're all different. Well, the one I'm looking forward for the most is we're doing Forest Hills.
Yes, me too.
Yeah,
I've never been to a game or any of that. I'm not a tennis guy.
Yeah, that's gonna be great. And then we end at the Gorge. The Gorge is fucking epic. It's one of the most beautiful places.
Where is that?
In Seattle. Hey, Christian, can you pull up a picture of the Gorge?
Wow, in the city?
And no, just outside. It's a stage at the foothills of a huge gorge, and Gorge Amphitheater. This place is fucking insane.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, so we got that place.
Wow, how many people can it hold there? Like 100,000?
I think a lot.
Wow.
But
see, to me, that would be a rough one because that reminds me of the old what was that tour that they did?
Oddball.
The Oddball, yeah. Where it was basically playing fields, you know.
27,000. But I think we'll just play that infield, which looks like seating. And so, yeah, we'll just do like the.
But there'll be plenty of room for fans and protesters. That's what I like. You can set up a picket line. Right there.
That place is going to be.
That
really
looks cool. Yeah.
And then all the ones in between. I mean, we're doing a lot more arenas than we would have normally.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because we're doing some baseball parks. We're doing some outdoor amphitheaters like this.
But the Wimbledon one, I'm digging that one.
That's
too.
going to be a fucking
Russ
blast.
Meany, we were just talking about him. Russ is a great guy. Real funny guy.
Love Russ.
He always invited me to the matches there, and I'm like, I'm not going to tennis. He goes, dude, it's like this awesome scene, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, he is a fan of the game.
Oh,
But
look at Rachel. Look at Rachel.
The people who do show up, it's like a real who's who of, like, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping we go into Forest Hills, and I'm hoping we get a couple. Like, I know I've got a couple people are gonna want to come out and don't want to be committed to the festival.
Sure.
They want to come out and do guest sets, like Segura.
For sure.
Was like, I'm going to come out to one. I want to see it. I want to do a spot.
The surprise is what the crowd loves.
I think Rogan said he's interested in maybe coming out.
Yeah.
And so those are the ones, like, these are the ones like this and the Gorge where I go, like, I was trying to get Louis to come out and do a guest set at Forest Hills.
That would be great.
But he says he's retiring.
Is he really?
He's retiring for a year.
Oh, but he just played the MSG, right?
MSG, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was like, I got to take time off. I was like, okay.
Okay.
So, but
well, maybe
I'll
come
still
out.
hit him out.
You don't know.
I told him, just come out and have a beer with us.
Yeah.
Like, just come out, eat an edible, Louis.
It would be because in New York there's so many locals that would, you know,
there's so many people that
the crowd would go nuts for. So
yeah, so I'm trying to get that to happen out there, and then some of the other ones. I mean, this year we're doing 2 months in June and 2 weeks in June, 2 weeks in July, taking 4th of July off. So it's going to be, and I'm going to try. I'm trying to make everything special. So I'm trying to do more private jets because I think those are a little more fun for the comics.
For sure, that I think it was Dayton to Rochester taking a private jet.
Yeah.
I mean, that really turned some heads when we landed at the Rochester International Airport.
I got hammered on that private jet.
I know what you said. This is costing me a lot of money. Eat whatever's on this jet. I paid for it. I was like, I totally understand
I
that.
got hammered. It was me, you, and Big J.
Yeah, like we were shoving kind bars in our pockets and weird, even the people on the private jet, they're like, you're taking a private jet to Rochester? Like, what happened? Is there a foreclosure on a factory or something?
Oh. Well, Dave, thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
I love you. I love you to death. I'm excited for this 30-minute special. And
dude, I'm always 24/7. I rarely sleep. So if you ever want to reach out to me, talk jokes, please. I always check jokes with everybody. So yeah. I'm always here for you, man. And I can't wait for the tour. Fully loaded do.
Fully loaded do.
Yes.
You're the best, dude.
All right, man. Thank you.